My parents tried to give my inheritance to their favorite daughter, but my grandparents had a surprising twist in store. Male 28-year-old comes from a family with a convoluted and long history of favoritism. My younger sister Amy, 25, has always been preferred by my parents, especially Dad, over me. Starting in our childhood, this partiality only got worse as we grew up. Amy was the golden child from my earliest memories. Our parents threw her an elaborate birthday party including professional face painters, a bouncy castle, and a petting zoo when I was 5 and she was 2. I had a store-bought cake and a little family supper for my birthday that same year. This helped to define the tone for years to come. The differences became clearer as we aged. Amy always received the newest toys, the greatest clothes and most attention. I recall saving months of allowance for a new bike when I was 10 years old. Amy wanted one too, hence she had a fit when she saw it. Rather of educating her about waiting or saving, my parents went right out and got her an even nicer bike than mine. Another arena where the bias was evident was school. Amy's parents attended all of her school functions, while they usually missed mine. I took front stage in the school play in 4th grade. I practiced for weeks, driven by great enthusiasm. My parents arrived an hour late on the night of the play, therefore missing my major scene. They were consoling Amy after she complained of stomachache. She was good later on, they had simply lost count of time playing with her. Regarding academics, nothing I ever appeared to do seemed sufficient. I joined the math club, often received straight A's in middle school, and even took first place in a regional science fair. Though my parents hardly noticed these successes, they gave Amy a celebratory dinner and purchased her a new phone as encouragement to keep getting better when she scored a B+ on one test in her weakest subject. In particular, high school was difficult. With an eye toward their approval, I put myself into whatever activity I could. Along with keeping a 4.0 GPA, I was editor of the school newspaper, debate team captain. Amy coasted through school, hardly keeping a C average, and spent much of her time hanging out with friends. I was chosen from our university as one of 2 junior year applicants to participate in a famous summer program at Harvard. It was such an honor, and I felt great. My dad grumbled and moved the topic to Amy's forthcoming dancing performance when I told the news over supper. At least my mother remarked, "That's nice," but she moved on fast. My parents couldn't bring me to the airport on the night Amy's concert fell on the same day I was leaving Harvard as they wanted to see Amy perform. I asked the parents of a friend for a ride. Another agonizing experience was the college application process. I worked months on improving my essays, engaged in extracurricular activities, and SAT preparation. Several elite colleges accepted me and I was given a sizable scholarship to my ideal college. When I told my parents about this at supper, their reaction was barely passable. "That's good, but don't let it run to your head. College isn't everything," my dad advised. "Just remember about us when you're off becoming a big shot," my mother said. On the other hand, my parents were quite understanding when Amy barely passed high school and chose not to attend college. They admired her for knowing herself and for defying social expectations. Something they never done for me, they even paid for her a car as a graduation gift. Emotionally, this persistent favoritism suffered me greatly. Over my teens and early 20s, I battled anxiety and despair. Beginning therapy in college, I came to realize that my parents' actions were not my fault. Years of effort were needed to develop my self-esteem and learn to validate myself rather than depending on my parents' approval. My immediate family did not help me, yet I still managed to lead a decent life. By the time I finished from college with honors, I had a decent job in finance, and even purchased my own house by 27 years old. Though my parents aren't, I'm glad of what I've accomplished. Here then, is where the current drama begins. On Dad's side, my grandfather died not too long ago. He left a sizable estate and was a successful businessman who started from nothing. In his will, he split his possessions equally among his grandchildren, including me, Amy, and our cousins, as well as his children, Dad and his siblings. My portion of the bequest was significant, roughly $500,000. It would have let me invest in my future, pay off my education loans, and perhaps even launch my own company someday. This unanticipated windfall and the chances it could present made me happy. When the will was read though, my parents clearly became agitated. Later, they drew me aside and said they felt it was unjust I received an equal portion. Amy, who lives in our parents' basement and works part-time at a coffee shop, said she needed the money more since she was suffering. Though stunned, I attempted to keep cool. I clarified that Grandpa made this decision. They had no say on how he decided. They insisted I should act morally and give Amy my fair part. They became enraged when I turned down and began guilt-tripping me, calling me unappreciative and selfish. Every incident my dad could recall where they had helped me came under discussion. Though I worked part-time to help with finances, he emphasized paying for my medically necessary braces, buying me school supplies, the bare minimum, and allowing me reside at home during college. He conveniently forgot about the car they bought Amy, the many shopping sprees, and the fact they still support her at 2025. The matter got rapidly more serious. Acting as the will's executor, my dad chose to handle things himself. Along with her own inheritance, he declared he would be interpretation Grandpa's intentions and give Amy my whole part. He said Grandpa would have wished if he had known our unique situation. I was broken. This was not only obviously illegal but also a terrible reminder of how little my parents thought of me. Pointing that Grandpa had always treated all his grandchildren equally and that he was aware of our circumstances, I tried to reason with them. Then my mother accused me of speaking ill of the deceased by implying Grandpa would have preferred anything else than what my dad was advocating. I mentioned certain memories of Grandpa pushing my academic and career goals, but my parents brushed off these as misinterpretation. They said Grandpa wanted to make sure Amy was taken care of and had privately voiced worry about her future. They had no response when I asked why he hadn't simply penned the will that way then. Amy, for her part, was awkward about the circumstances but did not voice criticism of our parents. She merely shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best," when I tried to chat to her alone. She obviously wasn't going to be much help. Feeling misled and wounded, I asked Grandpa's widow, my paternal grandma, for guidance. Hearing what was happening, she became enraged. She informed me that my parents had no authority to alter the will and that this was exactly not what Grandpa had planned. Grandma sent some material that clarifies the matter. Several years ago, apparently, my parents asked Grandpa to give everything to Amy in his will. Grandpa had steadfastly objected, saying he thought all of his grandchildren should be treated equally. He had even included a stipulation in his will declaring that anyone challenging the equitable distribution would lose their portion. Equipped with this knowledge, I challenged my parents. Grandma's disclosure of their earlier attempt to affect the will startled them. Saying they were only looking out Amy's future helped my dad try to defend it, but I could see the guilt on their faces. Grandmother acted right away. She got in touch with her will's other executors and attorney. She also got in touch with my dad's siblings, who shared her equally strong indignation at what he was attempting. Taken together, they stopped my dad's scheme and guaranteed that the will would be carried out as stated. Though they are unhappy with me, my parents were obliged to back off. They argued I should have handled this in-house instead of involving others and accused me of turning the family against me. My mother sobbed over how I had split the family and deceived them. I said I had never expected anything from them anyway, when my dad threatened to cut me out of their will totally. Now, should I accept the inheritance, they are threatening to break off all communication. My dad even went so far as to suggest that I would not be welcome in their house should I inherit it. In a particularly low blow, my mother remarked that my acceptance of the money reveals that I never truly loved them and was merely ready to profit from their passing. The matter splits the extended family. A few of my cousins are encouraging since they understand the long-standing favoritism and value me for advocating myself. Others believe I should have yielded in order to preserve peace since family harmony comes first over financial considerations. Although my dad's siblings are definitely on my side, this has strained their relationship as well as my parents. Amy finds herself enmeshed in all this. She confided in me privately that although she feels bad and didn't ask for this, she is not ready to challenge our parents. She's been trained her whole life to depend on them and seek their praise, hence I don't blame her totally. Still, a part of me longs she would help me just once. This circumstance has brought out a lot of past suffering and bitterness. I find myself remembering all the times I was passed over or discounted in favor of Amy, the birthday celebrations I missed, the school functions my parents missed, the successes that went unreported. This one occurrence seems to be bringing to a head a lifetime of unfairness. Though the whole affair has caused a great divide in the family, I am keeping my ground and want to take my inheritance as Grandpa meant. My parents hardly talk to me, and family get-togethers have grown awkward. I missed our monthly family meal last week for the first time ever since I could stand the cold shoulders and accusing glares. Though there is turmoil, a tiny bit of me feels empowered. I'm confronting the unfair treatment by my parents for the first time in my life. I'm declaring my value and refuse to be written off. It's both terrible and freeing at once. Though I think I'm in the right here, the family drama is draining me. Something I hadn't experienced since college, I have started having anxiety attacks once more. To assist handle all this stress, I'm thinking about returning to therapy. Am I the one who should have refused to comply with my parents' expectations and accepted my inheritance? Should I have simply handed Amy the money to maintain peace? Although I'm bored of being the family scapegoat, I also fear losing my family totally. Any guidance or viewpoint would be much valued. Update. Since my first post 6 months ago, a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their support and guidance. It truly kept me strong during trying circumstances. Let me start with the legal aspect of things. Many of you advised, and I did see my own attorney. He verified that I had every right to inherit and that what my dad attempted was in fact illegal. He helped me record everything and ready to act legally should needed. Fortunately, things did not transpire as such. Along with my dad's siblings, my grandma and her attorney worked out matters without involving court. I got my whole fortune and the will was carried out exactly as intended. Because of his will manipulation attempts, my dad was removed as an executor. This was a somewhat demanding process spanning several weeks. My parents threatened litigation, there were tense meetings and furious phone calls, but ultimately the law was unambiguous and they had to back off. Still ongoing though, the family fallout has been noteworthy. At first, my parents doubled down on their viewpoint. They charged me with being avaricious and neglectful of my sister. They also sought to mobilize other family members against me, disseminating allegations that I had somehow coerced Grandpa into giving me money. Luckily, most of the family saw through their trickery. About 1 month following the will's acceptance, there was one really unpleasant occurrence at a family gathering. When my parents showed there unannounced, my aunt was hosting and hadn't asked them to come, they started a scene. Starting to shout about how I had taken from Amy and corrupted Grandma against her, my dad became saying I had ruined all these wonderful memories. My mother flung an old photo album squarely at my feet. It was awkward and terrible. It took several relatives to cool things down and persuade my parents to leave. Bless her heart, my grandmother turned out to be my most powerful supporter over all of this. She related tales of how my grandfather had always been pleased of my achievements and how he especially wanted to make sure all his grandchildren had equal chances. She even said Grandpa had maintained a scrapbook of my accomplishments, newspaper clippings of academic honors, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even the program from that university play my parents had been late for. This insight was sad as well as wonderful. Grandma also volunteered to straighten the records with the wider family. She organized a family gathering excluding my parents, laying out the entire history of my parents' partiality including events I had long forgotten or never ever heard about. Having someone at last recognize the unfairness I had gone through for years was vindicating, but it also reopened old scars. About my sister Amy, she at last found her voice in all this. She came to me personally and apologized for not sticking up for me earlier after some soul-searching and several long talks with our grandmother. She said she thought our parents' preference was improper, but she had been too terrified to confront it. We discussed our childhood and how it influenced both of us in great length and emotional intensity. Amy admitted that being the favorite child wasn't as wonderful as it seemed. She never learned how to stand on her 2 feet and felt great pressure to live up to our parents' expectations. She told tales of times she yearned to accomplish things on her own, but our parents would swoop in and handle everything for her, therefore depriving her of the opportunity to develop and learn from her mistakes. For our relationship, this talk marked a sea change. We began to mend the sibling link our parents' partiality had broken. Just the two of us have been routinely meeting for coffee to discuss and encourage one another through this family crisis. Declaring that she was going to pay for college with her inheritance astonished everyone. She claimed seeing me stand up for myself motivated her to start managing her own life. Once she decided what she wanted to study, she registered in a nearby community college, first intending to transfer to a 4-year university. Our parents let out startled gasps. They knew, I believe, that their babying had not done Amy any favors. The response of my parents to all this has been diverse and changing. They first attacked both of us angrily. They tried to guilt Amy into quitting college to help the family since they said I turned her against them. They changed strategy when that proved ineffective. After several protracted talks with my grandmother and seeing Amy's great transformation, my mother began to recognize how damaging their actions had been. She has made some hesitant moves toward reconciliation, even beginning therapy to address her problems. She got in touch to apologies, owning that she had been unfair and requesting a chance to right things. It's a slow process, and while I'm gently hopeful, I'm also keeping strong limits. Sadly, my dad has been less likely to own any mistakes. Still furious, he feels as though he is the victim in all this. He has been chilly toward Amy since she chose to go college and hardly speaks to me. He has tried a few times to control us, threatening to sell our childhood house should we fail to come to our senses or forgiving us should we realize we were wrong. Although we are both standing strong, it hurts to see him distance both of his children like this. The dynamics among the extended family have changed dramatically. I now live closer to my dad's siblings, who have been quite helpful, and my grandmother. Having heard from my aunts and uncles about handling my dad's challenging conduct over the years, it has lessened my loneliness in this fight. Deeper bonds with some of my cousins who stood by me have also developed. Starting a monthly cousin meal allows us to all catch up free from the drama of the older generations. For myself, I have been making sensible use of my inheritance. Having paid off my college loans, I now feel an amazing degree of financial freedom. Working with a financial advisor, I have assembled a varied investment portfolio. I have also set aside some funds to maybe launch my own company some years forward. Opening a community center with reasonably priced mental health treatments and financial literacy seminars is something I'm investigating. But for me, buying therapy for myself and volunteering to do the same for Amy has been the most significant application of the money. Both of us are learning to set reasonable limits with our parents and are working on healing from our childhood events. Though it's a long road, I already feel as though I'm developing in knowledge and ability to overcome emotional neglect and long-term partiality. This whole process has brought some surprising good improvements into my life. I now know a great deal about establishing limits and defending myself. Though I know I did the right thing, it hasn't been easy and there are still difficult days. I feel good about myself for resisting guilt and pressure. Among the most unexpected results has been a change in my work path. Dealing with all this family conflict and undergoing therapy has helped me to see my own passion about supporting people who, dealing with all this family dysfunction and doing therapy has helped me to see how driven I am about supporting others who have gone through same family dynamics. Currently thinking about returning to school to specialize in adult children of emotionally immature parents and work as a family therapist. I have also been helping youngsters from challenging family homes at a nearby youth facility. Being able to offer the kind of encouragement and support I wish I had had as a youngster is immensely satisfying. I'm even considering creating a scholarship fund for children from same circumstances using some of my inheritance. My contact with Amy has kept getting better. Once a month, we have a siblings day when we do something entertaining, just the two of us. Our hiking and picnic last month was the most laid back and connected we had felt since we were small children. Without our parents' influence, we are gently reconstructing our connection on our own terms. Regarding my parents, things remain tricky. Our relationship has been trying to be rebuilt by my mom. She has been routinely attending therapy and has even begun to see some of the damage her favoritism brought about. We have had a few one-on-one lunches when we have had some honest, though challenging talks regarding our past and forward direction. Though it's not flawless, improvement is evident. My dad still objects to change though. He still says he done nothing illegal and that Amy and I should be appreciative. He refuses to be in the same room with me, hence he missed several family functions. Though it hurts, I am trying to let go of my need to compel him to see things differently or control his reactions. For both Amy and me, Grandma now serves as a rock. She has been sharing additional tales about our grandfather and his pride of us for advocating for ourselves. She always supports justice and understanding, thus she has been a fantastic mediator in family problems. The whole process has imparted a lot of lessons about the actual meaning of family. I've come to see that occasionally the family you select might be more encouraging than the one you were raised in. Along with developing a close-knit circle of friends who have been quite helpful along this journey, I have grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me. Setting limits and practicing self-care have also become more crucial to me. I'm growing better at saying no to circumstances that compromise my mental health, and I no longer feel bad about giving my personal well-being top priority. I was so preoccupied with trying to achieve my parents' favor that I had always put off investigating new interests and hobbies. To those in same circumstances, I would wish to advise: not let someone make you feel bad about getting what is rightly yours. Even if it generates controversy, it's reasonable to defend yourself. Though family dynamics might be complex, you are deserving of fair treatment. Remember, you never have too late to begin developing the life you are due. See a therapist if necessary, surround yourself with encouraging people, and don't hesitate to establish limits. Who you are personally defines your value, not how your family treats you. I want to thank each of you once more for your suggestions and encouragement. It meant more than what you would have known during a really trying period. Although the road has not been simple, I am excited about the future and confident in self-assurance I have not experienced in years. Where this new chapter of my life will lead excites me, and I am resolved to stop the pattern of favoritism and build better relationships in my own future family. Regarding my parents, things remain tricky. Our relationship has been trying to be rebuilt by my mom. She has been routinely attending therapy and has even begun to see some of the damage her favoritism brought about. We have had a few one-on-one lunches when we have had some honest, though challenging talks regarding our past and forward direction. Though it's not flawless, improvement is evident. My dad still objects to change though. He still says he done nothing illegal and that Amy and I should be appreciative. He refuses to be in the same room with me, hence he missed several family functions. Though it hurts, I am trying to let go of my need to compel him to see things differently or control his reactions. For both Amy and me, Grandma now serves as a rock. She has been sharing additional tales about our grandfather and his pride of us for advocating for ourselves. She always supports justice and understanding, thus she has been a fantastic mediator in family problems. The whole process has imparted a lot of lessons about the actual meaning of family. I've come to see that occasionally the family you select might be more encouraging than the one you were raised in. Along with developing a close-knit circle of friends who have been quite helpful along this journey, I have grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me. Setting limits and practicing self-care have also become more crucial to me. I'm growing better at saying no to circumstances that compromise my mental health, and I no longer feel bad about giving my personal well-being top priority. I was so preoccupied with trying to achieve my parents' favor that I had always put off investigating new interests and hobbies. To those in same circumstances, I would wish to advise not let someone make you feel bad about getting what is rightly yours. Even if it generates controversy, it's reasonable to defend yourself. Though family dynamics might be complex, you are deserving of fair treatment. Remember, you never have too late to begin developing the life you are due. See a therapist if necessary, surround yourself with encouraging people, and don't hesitate to establish limits. Who you are personally defines your value, not how your family treats you. I want to thank each of you once more for your suggestions and encouragement. It meant more than what you would have known during a really trying period. Although the road has not been simple, I am excited about the future and confident in self-assurance I have not experienced in years. Where this new chapter of my life will lead excites me, and I am resolved to stop the pattern of favoritism and build better relationships in my own future family. My mom favored my sister and ignored me. In the end, my perfect sister ran off with mom's money, leaving her devastated. I was 23 years old and lived at home with my mom, 52 years old, and older sister, 26 years old. This manner of life persisted after my dad's death 5 years ago. Emma, my sister, was mom's favorite from the beginning. Anyone who spent even 5 minutes with our family could see this. It wasn't just me. When she was a kid, Emma was the center of attention and the recipient of all the newest fashions and technology. Even though mom never missed an Emma school function, she would make up an excuse like, "I'm too tired," or "I have to work late," whenever I asked her to attend my own. Eventually, I grew accustomed to the pain. There was little change as we aged. While Emma attended a prominent university to get a law degree, I got my associate's degree in graphic design from a small college. Emma was the object of mom's incessant boasting. "My Emma is going to be a big-shot lawyer one day," she would proudly proclaim. All the while, people either didn't care or were downright disappointed by my chosen work path. However, the true problem wasn't merely favoritism, it was the unequal allocation of domestic duties. I was supposed to handle all the housework since Emma was supposed to be studying. When I say all, I really do mean it. I would begin my day at 6 o'clock every morning. Making breakfast would be my first order of business. Emma favored a vegetable omelet accompanied by a serving of fruit, while mom liked her eggs cooked to perfection with toast and no crust. In my regular state, I would hastily seize a granola bar for my own consumption. Before going out to my part-time job at a nearby coffee shop, I would tidy up the kitchen, wash the dishes, and begin a load of laundry after breakfast. Despite mom's lack of request, I worked there to help out around the house and save up for my own place. I would do everything from dusting to mopping, vacuuming, and everything in between as soon as I got home in the afternoon. Meal planning and grocery buying were also my responsibilities. This was never easy because both mom and Emma had very specific nutritional needs. Even the dinner was a show. While Emma sat on the couch, fiddling with her phone, I would whip up extravagant dinners. Talking to her mom about her day, school, and future goals was a regular occurrence. Word of mouth would be an uphill battle for me. Guess who had to do the dishes after supper? I am, once again. Mom would give me a disapproving look and say things like, "Your sister needs to focus on her studies," whenever I ventured to complain or ask for assistance. One day, she will have a prosperous life and be able to provide for all of us. Assisting around the house would be the bare minimum you can do. Emotionally and physically, it was draining. While Emma was free to unwind and have fun, I felt like a housekeeper in my own house, rushing around all the time. Worst part was that mom was completely unconcerned with my attempts. From that point on, it was Emma this, and Emma that. Things reached a boiling point on a certain day. I was hoping to reconnect with some college pals that day, because it was a Saturday. Our design class was going to have us work on a collaborative project. The opportunity to leave the house and engage in social interaction that did not include serving coffee or doing chores was more than enough to make me look forward to it all week, and not only because of the project. As is my habit, I got up bright and early to finish my errands before I left. My mom walked into the kitchen just as I was preparing breakfast. "Oh great, you're awake," she remarked. "Today, I'm counting on you to give the living room a good scrub. We need to scrub the carpet and remove and wash the curtains." My chest ached. "But Mom," I said, "today I am scheduled to..." "Remember when I told you about our group project?" Mom scowled. "You can reschedule, right? Do not overlook this. Next week we have company coming over, and I would like the house to be spotless." In an effort to maintain composure, I inhaled deeply. "We will have to reschedule. This has been in the works for weeks. Perhaps Emma could pitch in and clean a little." It was almost 10 in the morning when Emma, seemingly at a whim, strolled into the kitchen still dressed in her pajamas. "Morning," she said with a yawn as she reached for a muffin from the platter I had just placed. Turning to Emma, Mom's expression softened. "Hello there, darling. Had a good night's sleep? Rest assured, there will be an online study group meeting later on." With a muffin still in her mouth, Emma nodded. Mom redirected her gaze to me, her face becoming even more stern. "Your sister needs to get some serious schoolwork done. No one should expect her to clean. Her education is of the utmost importance to you." Something inside of me snapped. Every bit of pent-up resentment, animosity, and pain finally burst forth. "And what about my education?" I spoke more loudly as I inquired. "What will happen to my plans? This is my life. Isn't their significance immense?" Mom appeared surprised. To which she responded, "Of course they matter, but..." I interrupted her. "But it's still not equal to Emma's, is it? Never on par with Emma's." Finally speaking up was Emma, who had been observing this discussion with wide eyes. "Stop including me in this, please. When Mom wants you to help out around the house, it's not my fault." I was already furious before that. "Although you have never once offered to lend a hand, please don't take this personally. Sit back and enjoy the ride." Mom made an effort to step in. "Now let's all calm down, there's no need to..." Still, I was feeling very well at the moment. I was helpless as years of suppressed feelings finally broke out. "No more settling down for me, Mom. I've had enough of being the housekeeper. Treating me like Emma is beneath me and I'm sick of it. Everything, including the partiality and unreasonable expectations, has had enough of me." I looked across at Emma. "Why does Mom never ask you to help out with housework?" Her reasoning is that she believes you have great potential to become wealthy and provide for her in the years to come. It's quite the burden, isn't it? "But well, at least I'm doing all the work, so you can relax." Redness spread across Emma's face. "You can't be fair. My education are a top priority for me." "And I don't?" My response was a rapid one. "In addition to schooling and taking care of the house, I'm working part-time. When will it be safe to think about the future?" Again, Mom attempted to intervene. "You are aware, my darling, that we value all that you do? The difference is that Emma's chosen profession will, in the end, pay off more handsomely." A slap in the face was the feeling I got from such remarks. "Is that all? Is the amount of money I could make in the future the only thing that matters to this family?" Mom swiftly reversed her course. "No, it is not my intention. Compared to what you're studying, a job in law offers more stability." "Coloring and design, Mom. One of my majors is graphic design. Is it so important that you've taken the time to research my life goals and aspirations?" I knew exactly what to do based on Mom's expression. She was unconcerned. Without ever truly comprehending it, she had dismissed my career path. I pushed back the tears that threatened to well up in my eyes. At this very moment, I would not weep. "What do you think? That's it. Today I will not be cleaning the living room. I intend to get down with my pals and get some stuff done on my project. Plus, I'm leaving the house until we have a serious talk about how things work here when I return." I then snatched my suitcase and bolted from the kitchen, leaving Mom and Emma standing there in disbelief. A strange feeling of relief mingled with fury and hurt as I banged the front door shut behind me. I had finally spoken out for myself after what felt like an eternity. The remainder of the day slipped my mind. In an effort to forget about the argument from earlier, I got together with my pals and dove headfirst into our project. The day progressed though, and uncertainties began to arise. Did I react too strongly? Had I been self-centered? Perhaps I should have simply rearranged my plans and cleaned up as Mom requested. Note, I got back to my house that night, emotionally and intellectually drained by the day's events, but still intent on keeping my word and having that serious talk. But the tension was palpable the moment I stepped through the door. When I walked into the living room, neither Mom nor Emma gave me a second look. With some hesitation, I spoke up and asked, "Hey, can we talk?" No sound. Both of them peered intently at the television, but it was clear that neither of them was paying attention. I gathered my courage, inhaled deeply, and chose to go ahead anyhow. "Listen, I get that you had a long morning, but I feel like we have to talk about this. Emma, all I'm asking is that you pitch in a bit more with the housework. I would feel more comfortable if we were treated fairly." Mom finally turned to look at me, her face showing no emotion. "I think you've said quite enough already," Emma interjected, her tone betraying her contempt. "Indeed, your voice was clearly audible to us earlier today. You're envious of my future prospects and me. How egocentric are you?" I was hit square in the stomach. Is it egocentric? Asking for aid isn't selfish in any way. Grandma scowled. "It's like you're breaking the silence in this house. Her education should be Emma's top priority. You're simply envious because you're aware that your small pastime won't be very successful." Hobby. I said it again, my jaw dropping. "Graphic design is a real career, Mom, if you'd ever bothered to learn about it." "Enough," Mom interrupted me. "I won't have you disrespecting us like this in our own home." Abashed, I remained still. It had been my sincere wish that they would have considered my words and come to terms with how unfair things had been. Nevertheless, they redoubled their efforts. "Our very own home," I murmured again. "I see. I suppose it's no longer my home." I retreated to my room after saying nothing further. I returned outside after stowing a few articles of clothing and necessities in a bag and retrieving my laptop. Mom and Emma continued to stare fixedly at me from the living room. "I'll be at Sarah's," I texted, mentioning my college best buddy. "I'll come back for the rest of my stuff later." Relieved and heartbroken all at once, I slammed the door behind me. Unfortunately, I needed some breathing room to figure out what to do next, so I resorted to this temporary measure. Unlike at Sarah's, I wouldn't be made to feel like an inferior or treated like a maid. I have no idea what the future holds, but I am certain that I'm entitled to better than this. I should begin to believe that now. Update. I must admit, leaving my family home has been an eye-opening experience. It has been approximately 3 months since I made the move. My friend Sarah has been my roommate, and we've been dividing up the rent and housework evenly. Everything I do on a daily basis has changed. Since I no longer have to worry about taking care of the house, I've had more time than ever before to devote to my education and my emerging profession as a graphic designer. I've interned at a regional marketing agency, finished a number of freelance jobs, and am now building my portfolio. When you're not worn out from being a maid for other people, you can do so much. However, unexpected events do happen in life. While grocery shopping last week, I unexpectedly ran into Mrs. Johnson, our neighbor. She looked worried and wanted to know how I was doing before she inquired about Mom. Evidently, she had observed Mom's recent struggles and apparent overwhelm while tending to the yard. According to Mrs. Johnson, "Your mother insisted she was fine, despite her offer of assistance." I was under the impression that Emma was assisting her. A wave of shame and anger washed over me. Obviously Emma was making everything worse. Since when would she begin? The most shocking thing, though, wasn't even that. In her usual gossipy but well-intentioned manner, Mrs. Johnson spilled yet another bombshell. "And how is Emma's academic progress coming along? I pray that the incident involving Professor Andrews has not had a significant impact on her." Mrs. Johnson's eyes expanded, so I must have appeared perplexed. "Oh no, I guess you were aware. Professor Andrews and Emma have been spotted all over town together quite a bit. There has been discussion." Feeling disoriented, I thanked Mrs. Johnson and limped out of the store. My ideal sister Emma was careening around with a professor instead of concentrating on her promising legal career. The neighbors even took note and started chatting about it. So it must have been really major. I was unhappy most of the time, but there was a twisted satisfaction in there somehow. The golden child wasn't all that golden after all. It broke my heart to see Mom trying to get everything done that I used to do on her alone. Tragic for Emma, who put her career in jeopardy for a professor's romance. I felt terrible for our family since it appeared like everything was coming to a crumbling end without me. Given this data, I am unsure of my next steps. While a part of me longs to make amends and reach out, another part recalls the pain and years of inferiority and questions whether it's worthwhile. My personal development and recovery are my current priorities. Self-worth and my chosen profession are becoming more apparent to me. A life where my worth is recognized and my efforts are valued is something I'm working toward. Perhaps Mom and Emma will come to terms with what they've lost in due time. Perhaps they will not. I used to try so hard to win their favor, but now that I'm on my own, I recognize that it was a mistake. The circle of life always seems to close, doesn't it? When I finally felt like I had things under control 6 months later, life decided to throw me another curveball. My phone rang on a peaceful Sunday night while I worked on a freelancing assignment. "Yeah, Mom." Since my departure, we hadn't had many conversations, so I was hesitant to respond. My mother's inconsolable wailing greeted me when I took up the phone. "Mom, what's wrong?" My pulse pounding, I inquired. She choked out, "Emma's gone," as she sobbed. She took the most of my savings when she ran off with a boy from her university. The sensation was as if someone had doused me with icy water. Hearing that Emma had done something so careless and damaging was upsetting since, despite everything, she was still my sister. "I'm coming over," I announced, hastily retrieving my keys. My heart nearly burst at the sight of my childhood house when I arrived. Compared to the spotless home Mom had usually kept, the house was in utter disarray. Even though it had just been a few months, Mom appeared to have aged significantly. She started crying again the second she laid eyes on me. I couldn't make sense of the conflicting feelings coursing through me as I comforted her while she sobbed. Mom gave me a glance with crimson-rimmed eyes once she cooled down. "I've been so foolish," she whispered. "The last several months have really enlightened me. I was completely mistaken on a lot of things, including you and Emma." She grasped both of my hands. "Even though you were the reliable one who I could always rely on, I failed to recognize your worth and instead treated you like a commodity. My deepest apologies, my love." My own eyes started to brim up with tears. I never imagined I would get this kind of recognition, yet here it was. "I want you, even though I know I don't deserve it," Mom went on to say. "Are you thinking about returning home? Trust me when I say things are going to change." Looking at Mom, vulnerable and sincerely sorry, made me realize I couldn't turn my back on her, no matter how much I wanted to deny in order to shield myself from more harm. "All right, Mom," I whispered. "I'll come back, but things really do need to be different this time." A wave of relief swept over her as she enthusiastically nodded. "They will be, I promise." Now I find myself back in my childhood home. It's weird, unsettling, yet somehow soothing all at once. My mother and I are working on improving our communication and mutual appreciation. My graphic design work has captured her attention, and she has even asked me to teach her the basics. Collaboratively, we are cleaning up the house and resolving the financial crisis that Emma caused. It's challenging, but we're making it work. We have not received any communication from Emma. She has my deepest sympathies, and I pray she is safe, but I can't shake the rage she inspired. Thanks to Mom's understanding, I'm able to keep up with my internship and freelancing job. Finding that sweet spot is going to take some time, but we're getting there. What is ahead is completely unknown to me. A part of me is still cautious, still trying to keep my emotions under check, but I also have hope. Perhaps this is the opportunity for a new beginning that our family has been seeking. For the time being, it suffices. It's not the happily ever after I had envisioned, but it is real. After my sister stole from me, my mother wants to defend her by sending me to military school. This took place when I was 14 years old, approximately 1 year before the divorce of my parents. My younger sister would always spend her allowance as if it were water, particularly on things like makeup, meals from the mall, video games, and clothing from Hot Topic that she purchased. In spite of the fact that I was also given an allowance, my father made me earn it by cleaning the house and working in the yard. My mother never forced my sister to do any duties, with the exception of cleaning her room, and my sister never did anything she didn't want to do unless her father was present to oversee her. In order to acquire additional funds, I mowed lawns, collected abandoned cans from various locations throughout the area in order to exchange them for a 5-cent deposit, and performed various other odd tasks across the neighborhood. I was putting money down at the time in order to get a scooter so that I could go around town. During the course of 2 years, I was able to save almost $2,000 by working a variety of odd jobs and putting away the majority of my allowance. The accumulation of that money, on the other hand, was not a simple task, primarily because of my sister. Despite the fact that she was aware of all the small hiding places where I used to keep my money, she would steal from them. The following is a memorable passage that I have paraphrased from what I remember. My response: "Hey sis, did you take my money again?" "Sister, what is it?" "No." When she was caught in the act of lying, she would stutter. "You are a terrible liar," I said to you. $100 is missing from my savings account. Sis is saying, "Leave me alone, I didn't do it." She begins to act as if she is crying and then rushes to her mother. Sis is saying, "Mommy, bro is picking on me." My response: "She stole from my savings again." Shut up, my mother yelled at me while snapping her fingers. Is it not obvious that mama's little girl is feeling upset? That is all there is to it? She said that she did not do it, so it is safe to assume that she did not do it. In that case, I'll put you on the ground if you don't let this go. The other person. I know she did it, and if you don't get the money back, I'll get Dad's help. Mom. There is no longer any requirement for that. Another thing is that you don't have any evidence that she stole your money. Yes, I do, says I. Every single dollar that I add to it is recorded in a ledger that I keep. A total of X was reached 3 days ago, however at this point, there is only Y. There is a missing $100, and you are aware that she has already stolen from my savings account on multiple occasions. That being said, I am aware that sis has already used up all of her stipend for this month, but you still went shopping yesterday. Exactly where did she obtain the money, don't you think? Following a brief moment of reflection, Mom scowls. What do you know, mister? You are firmly planted. I am going to grab the belt if you do not go to your room, she said. I had the ability to discuss the matter further. However, if there is one thing that I picked up from being in that environment, it was the knowledge of when to stop talking and simply call my father. Therefore, without uttering a single word to either of them, I made my way to my room and slammed the door shut. After that, I reached for my brick-like Nokia cell phone, which I had at the time, and dialed my father's number while he was at work. After he did not pick up the phone, I left a message in which I explained everything. He contacted me back about an hour later and assured me that he will take care of the situation. Not long after that, I heard the ringing of the landline phone in the house, and then I heard my mother yelling at my father as she was on the phone in the kitchen. It was difficult for me to listen from my room, and the only thing I managed to pick up on was my mother trying to excuse her behavior. When she was in the wrong, however, that strategy was never successful, and she ended up saying something along the lines of, "Fine. In the event that she did, in fact, steal the money, you're obligated to repay it because she has already spent it." On the other hand, my mother yelled at me while she threw open my door. "You little snitch, I can't believe you blew the whistle on me. You couldn't just let a little money slip through your fingers after everything I do for you." My response, "So you admit that my sister took it then?" A sneering mother says, "You know what, it makes no difference to me. More money is required by girls than by boys. There is no reason why you shouldn't just hand it over to her." Simply said, it wasn't even that much. "It wasn't just a little money, and you ought to know that," I said. In spite of the fact that she took $100, I would still want it back even if it was only $1. If someone stole from your purse, you would not want it to happen to you. The same thing would happen if my sister stole from me. She is guilty as you are aware. One way or another, I want that money backdated. She did nothing while I put great effort on it. Mom. My darling has no responsibilities. She is a princess and ought to be treated accordingly. Me? That isn't what bothers me. She may go be a princess away from my possessions and away from me. Mom. That's it, you tiny expletive. I'm going to knock your ass. Me, standing up and staring her eye to eye, as I was already as tall as her at 14 and pretty strong from all the outdoor work I was doing. Go ahead and try it. Since I did nothing wrong, I won't let you. My mother froze in position for a second, then let out a loud "Ray," and swung her arm to try and knock something off my dresser, but she swung too low and struck the dresser itself, which I assume truly hurt. She was giving me a terrible face as she grasped her hand to try and hold in the agony. Her teeth were snarling. She simply turned around then and left. When she didn't weigh was to go to her wine fridge and proceed to get drunk. I heard her making a racket, yelling and smashing the wall as she went down the hall, down the stairs, into the kitchen doing her regular routine when she didn't weigh was denied. From her bedroom door, my sister was watching me. She glanced at me scared and ran back inside her room slamming the door. Mom was fast changing. She was her ace in the hole for getting away with the horrors she did to me. My dad came home from work a few hours later and marched my sister into my room to see me. She admitted to pilfering from me, then informed me I was not grounded. Sis refused to even look at me the entire time she was being ordered to apologize, and she did so in the most quiet and squeaky voice at first, until my dad regularly told her to speak up till she was almost screaming it. Dad then handed me a $100 cash to cover what my sister stole and mentioned she was grounded for a week. The pilfered money will show up from her stipend. She began crying and called Dad horrible, then dashed to her room. Ignoring all of us, my mother merely sat on the rear patio intoxicated on her preferred wine. She never apologized to me and even behaved as though the whole incident never took place. My sister still received her next allowance as well, but at that time my mother gave it to her rather than my dad. On my dad's day off from work a few days later, We visited a nearby retailer where he purchased a combination safe to deposit my money and other little items in. We omitted telling my mother or sister I had it. It was set for a 4-digit code. To the best of memory, I used 4,962 back then. After locking the safe and emptying all of my money into it, I stored it at the rear of my closet. A few weeks passed, and one day after returning from mowing some neighbors, I discovered my room had been rifled. To let her know what sis did to my room, I gave my mother a call. Mom said, "My baby didn't do this." "Well then, did you?" I said. "Mom, no." "Me? Well, it could only have been one of you. No one else was here and this room was clean when I left." Mom clearly upset at getting caught by reason. "Fine, but if she did, then so what? You had it coming from not being kinder to her anyhow." She then turned to dash off. I phoned my dad once more and left another note explaining what transpired on his work answering machine. I then went to tell my sister I knew she was the one who tore apart my room. I said she couldn't get to my money anymore since I had locked it up in a safe before she could even try to respond to me. She then had an awful fit and naturally, nasty mama bear came running to save her. My sister kept wailing in her room for the next 20 minutes while I reiterated that sis couldn't get at my money anymore and returned to clean her room. Only thrown and spread around, nothing was truly missing or ruined. I gathered everything and restored it exactly how it was. Still, it was the most arrogant I had ever felt as I cleaned my room. The next day though, I discovered it ripped once more, and this time my window was damaged too. Not able to get the safe open, sis had thrown it out the window. I immediately contacted my father, and when my parents returned from work, my sister came clean about having done it, as if she were glad of herself. Saying I shouldn't have received the safe in the first place, my mother really tried to side with her. But, my dad chewed her up and stated he got it for me since he was sick and tired of her stealing from me. My dad has to pay me back each time she pilfers money from me and spends it since my mother never would. My dad got me a lock for my door and even a combination key lock box with the key to my room next to the door. We had to replace the complete window from my room. After shattering my window, my sister ground herself for a month and spent that whole time pining in her room. Mom always let dad go back to do what she wanted, like watching TV or playing video games, whenever he was home till he left work. Knowing that my sister and mother would have gone out of their way to make me more miserable, I decided not to say anything. Once her month-long grounding ended, my sister started pestering me for money each time she spent all of her stipend. She never saved anything, hence I just pointed out to her that she would never pay it back. To be honest, I created an IOU to see whether she would really sign it before dad. She ripped the paper in half later and went crying to mom once more over my rudeness. Mom and she would try to make me cough up the money for her, but I would remind her what dad would do. Thus if my sister needed any more money, it wouldn't come from me. My mom then actively sought to send me to military school, but dad objected. Also, for anyone wondering why my dad didn't simply assist me create a savings account back then, I honestly don't know. Saving it in cash seems like the way we handled things. Update. I once made my mother walk straight into my door. My sister had thrown my safe through my bedroom window, so shortly after my dad provided me a safe for my money, he also got me a deadbolt lock for my door with a wall-mounted lockbox requiring a code to access the key. Together, we installed the lock and lockbox while my sister and mother were not home. My sister came back and initially walked past my room. I watched her glance at the lock then dash to get mom. Coming thundering down the stairs to meet my dad and me was both of them. What I recall is the following paraphrased. Mom says, pointing and snapping a few times, "What the hell is that?" Father. A door lock. Mom. I know what the expletive thing is. Why is it in there? Dad. Because you never see fit to reprimand or stop our daughter from taking from Kegel or ransking his room. The lock stays so going forward. Mom. This is my house and he is just 14. His door cannot have a lock. Dad said, no, this is our house. Last I checked though, I paid most of the expenses including the mortgage. You seldom pay anything, and I'm tired of you giving our daughter such preference that Kegel suffers constantly. Mom says, well then, I demand you tell me the code for the lockbox at least. Deadpan staring dad. I'm not doing that because you've shown I can't trust you anymore. Mom then blasted her top and rushed down the steps. My sister merely stood there pouting and then made slow walk into her room. With the new lock, things were good. It became second nature to me to lock it each time I left my bedroom. Many times when I entered the code to obtain the key, I spotted my sister and mother staring at me, but I always made sure to conceal their line of sight using my hand or body. Though they hated that, there was nothing they could do about it. One day late in the month, My sister came begging me for $40 to get a video game she absolutely desired. Me. Why do you keep asking for money when you and I both know you'll never pay it back? Sis. I swear, I'll pay it back. Me. You won't? You know you would much prefer spend all of your allowance than pay me back. You spend everything you have then some each month. That's what you do always. Sis. No, I do not. Well then, how about we test that? I ask. Always have a witness for contracts, folks. I then went into my room, acquired a piece of paper and a pen, handwrote an IOU contract stating sis would pay me back the $40 upon receiving her monthly stipend, and dad would co-sign the IOU. After reading the paper, S began sniffling. She ripped it in half and then ran screaming to mom once more, like she did every single time her way was denied. Mom. Sis, bowing. Sobbing. Mom. What is it, darling small prince? What then did Kegel do? Me. I asked her to sign an IOU fronting dad as she wanted to borrow money. She then started to freckle. Mom. And why would you pursue that? She merely sought a small loan. Me. Would you sign the IOU also to make sure she pays the money back? Mom says, you little expletive. I am not required to sign anything, now only loan her the money. Me, not without a signed IOU. Mom stood up, arm out as if about to strike me, then pulled back. Mom. You have to have a paper trail for everything. You're just like your father. I'd say it's a good thing I'm just like dad because it's far better than being just like sis is, because you never do anything good. Me, beginning to stroll up the stairs to my room at this point. Mom asked, what was that, you little expletive? Just as I entered my bedroom and locked the door, she started hurrying up the stairs. Back then, my mother used to yell at me by throwing open my bedroom door. She opened the in one sweeping stroke, lunging her body forward, but at this point I had only had the lock on my door for a brief while, so she wasn't used to it yet. She tried to throw open my door and smashed rather loudly directly into the deadbolt after I shut it. Then I heard her slump to the ground and begin to produce agonizing cries. She had very hard banged her body and face against the door. Her lip was plump and her forehead developed a bump from this old-fashioned solid wood door. She was spread out on the floor pounding her fists when I opened the door. Mom exclaimed, you did this to me, you little expletive. Me? You did it to yourself. Mom. You are anchored. Get away from my sight. I then called Dad and he simply grumbled over the phone over the entire matter. He stated I wasn't grounded, but I was still in huge trouble for goading her and to let him handle her when he got home. That was about it. Dad gave me a harsh lecture at the end, coupled with extra housework and a cut in my stipend that month. Every time sis begged for money following that day, I asked her to sign an IOU. She truly did object to that. Update 2. It blew up in her face when my mother tried to have me sent to military school and produced my dad's signature. When I stood up to my mother when she threatened to spank me, she seemed to get more cautious that if she tried to harm me it would end very poorly for her. The final time. She mainly yelled at me. She never laid a finger on me ever more until years later, when she wanted my house. I gave it no thought and carried on with my regular schedule of classes and odd work. Right around my 15th birthday, my dad gave me an engine kit for my bike to get around town. I would be better off saving for a car than a scooter, he advised, and this would help now. I stayed saving for a car and finally agreed with his reasoning. A few days later, though, I came over a military academy leaflet while clearing grass off the rear patio after mowing the yard. It was on the floor under a chair close to where my mother preferred to sit and sip wine. I waited until my dad arrived home to show him what I had discovered. I felt she was planning some sort of mad scheme. He went to see my mom with the booklet and asked her about it since he was somewhat irate but didn't jump to judgments. Dad said, "Honey, what's this?" Mom becomes white upon seeing the leaflet. "Nothing. I had never seen it before." "Dad, exactly? You know I wouldn't let you send Kegel to military school if you intended to try to send him." Mom broke her front at that and exclaimed, "He has to learn some discipline. He locks his door often, hence I am unable to even spank him anymore as he is too big. This is the only means I have left to chastise him for being a disobedient brat. Dad. Kegel stood up to you for your silly favoritism and did nothing wrong. Given you in the way you treat her and let her get away with stealing from her brother, our daughter is the brat if anything. And as far as I'm concerned, this conversation about sending Kegel to military school is closed. Should you try to send him, then help me, I will bring the hammer down on you whatever method I can." Mom. "Well, I guess this entire family is just going to take away what little power I have left in this house then. Should I have nothing, I could as well be nothing. Dad. You and I both know you would much choose Keel over being nothing. Cut back on your theatrical behavior. Now a guy with his own money, Kegel is growing up. Mom left the room angrily then. Before school, the next morning, I watched her desperately attempting to fit something into the kitchen garbage can. I dug out what she was trying to hide while waiting for her to head out for work. She filled out the military school application totally in her hand. On it, both parents or legal guardians had to sign. The paper included 2 signatures. I understood Mom's, but the other seemed to be a poor attempt to copy Dad's. His sleek and sophisticated signature was something he took great satisfaction in. There is no way my mother could replicate it without seeming like fraud. She probably understood it once she was confronted and gave up attempting to send me away. Later I showed my dad the papers and kept them. Though he was furious, he let it go knowing she had done it already. Still, he filed the paperwork right in case. A few more months later, word leaked out that my mother was seeing an old high school ex-boyfriend. My dad filed for divorce. That was his last straw. Months later, after he acquired another house, I moved in with him. Pulling out the military school records my mom had created with his signature, he accelerated the divorce rather fast. And it wasn't only that, he also had evidence she created his signature on at least 1 credit card application and one other thing I don't remember, which made Mom worry about being arrested for fraud. She agreed to most of his requirements, so they proceeded really quickly through court. Dad didn't want the house, so Mom bought it. Nevertheless, she also insisted on alimony and child support since my sister, predictably, decided to remain living with her. For a decade of monthly payments, the judge granted my mother child support and a minimal alimony award. Alimony essentially paid my sister's allowance anyhow. Mom was really irate about that and vowed to bring him back to court, but for years he held the falsified signatures over her head to calm her. My sister threw out her mouth at me and smugly claimed Mom informed her she was a princess and the more deserved sibling, so explaining the reason I was leaving the house. Not caring anymore, I merely shook my head and advised her to consider what she wants. Then I went out the door, at last as free as a bird. My connection with my sister, who paid once-weekly visits to Dad's residence, deteriorated until at last we stopped communicating completely for years. Mom's residence hardly appealed to me. She essentially turned my former room into a home office anyway. My ex-husband had an affair with my sister while we were married. He recently sent me an email, and it has been 6 years since we last spoke. About 15 years ago, while celebrating my 18th birthday, I, 33F, met my ex-husband Dan, 40M, in a restaurant. He was indeed mature, friendly, and quite nice. He made me feel unique and cherished. To put that in some perspective, my family was dysfunctional. My dad would occasionally disappear for months and my mom and dad used to quarrel often. He passed away at the birth of my sister Abby, 5-year-old. From Abby's birth, my mother was far more loving of Abby than of me. My mother virtually raised Abby as her baby. She always did her best as a mother and supported me, so I always felt something was lacking even though she hardly neglected me. I felt as though nothing was lacking in my life until Dan entered it. He helped me. He was kind. He would always get me things and drive me for great distances. In his company, I felt whole. 4 years of dating preceded our marriage. Though Dan advised me to get my master's degree and supported me in developing my profession, I wanted a family immediately away. Before we began considering having children seriously, he wanted us to be in a steady financial posture. The best man I could have asked for. 5 years in a happy marriage turned out to reveal that my husband was seeing Abby behind closed doors. When my husband concocted an excuse, that he would be out of town for a week, but stayed in town and reserved a hotel room where he and Abby could have sex, I found out about the affair. 6 months behind my back, this has been continuing. I was rather heartbroken. Growing close was Abby and me. I cherished and looked after her. She could do this to me? Dan and I got into argument following D-Day. Given my sister, who had just turned 19, I questioned how he could treat me. He claimed he no longer loved me, I gave him insufficient attention, and I was not the same girl he had feelings for. I found I was pregnant among this disarray, but I lost the baby from stress. He was on a weekend trip with my sister, not even bothered enough to see me at the hospital when I lost our child. I ought to have spotted the signals. Though Dan would occasionally look at Abby and she would always be sensitive with him, it still bothers me greatly. As usual, my mother supported Abby's side and advised me to simply live with it. Having no one else left, I wanted to die. I lost my husband, my child, my entire family. Then my buddy Tina, my rescuer, showed up. She invited me to accompany her when she was moving to another state. I nodded affirmatively. By then I was divorced, and we lived in a tiny town, so I would naturally run across my sister and ex. It took me some time to adjust to my new life in another state, but I came across some nice folks there that helped me mend some damage. I still find problems with trust. 1 year of relocation to the new house brought me Tony, 32M, my now husband. Though I was somewhat cautious and kept my distance, he proved to me that he loves me a great lot and is reliable. I nearly forgot about the life I had back in my hometown since I was so delighted with him. His parents were really friendly and giving folks. A year ago we were married and I am currently carrying our first kid. My ex, Dan, sent an email yesterday. It simply brought back every negative memory. I'm only copying his email here. He said he is somewhat depressed with my sister and misses me. He attempted to find me but couldn't. Unlike me, she is quite stupidity and doesn't give him any attention. Abby merely texted him happy birthday and neglected to even get him a cake. I used to prepare him one and celebrate birthdays for him. She also disrespects him, is often in the bar with her pals, and is rather nasty. She had also cheated on him 5 times before, he added. The last affair was with his cousin. Our mother lets go on without stopping. He is about to seek for a divorce, but lately he has been absent from me a lot. He wants us to attempt once more as a couple and to have a family exactly like previously. He most likely does not know that I am married and have a baby en route since I just have Instagram, which is private. The grass on his side looks somewhat brown instead of green, so I'm not sure whether I should pity him or just laugh. Update. I wanted to thank you to those of you who messaged and offered support. I have decided to be done with it and email him. Dan, I am sorry to learn you are hurting, but there is no way I could be with you. Indeed, I used to be the girl who would have taken you back in a heartbeat, but that girl is no more present. That girl passed the day I was having a miscarriage. You were somewhere shucking with my sister. You never answered when I phoned you. I live with a fantastic man that loves and values me. Our first child is also en route. I am starting this new phase of my life with someone I love and very care for. Please do not thus get in touch with me ever again. You took a decision. You chose my barely legal sister instead of me. Whether she respects you or choose on you, it makes no difference to me. Anyone like you does not deserve respect and loyalty regardless. I left my former life in my former town. You would be best off continuing and giving some introspection some thought. You are simply a very insecure man getting old and would benefit from having a young woman at your side. Goodbye. Update 2. The 3rd of March. Many of you have asked me what he said. He answered within 1 hour of my emailing him. He stated he would always wait for me since no matter what, I will always be his baby doll, and he was dumb enough to believe I would still wait for him. I gave a hard cring. He used to call me that, but these days it feels repulsive. My sister and mother sent emails as well. Just congratulating me. My mother expressed excitement about her becoming a grandmother. Saying she will be the cool aunt, my sister likewise followed the same. These individuals truly betrayed me and forgot how they treated me when I needed them. Having been reading your comments, I grieved for a long period since it seems like the man groomed both my sister and me. I feel absolutely foolish. Though she was mature enough to know it's immoral to have an affair with a married guy, especially someone who is your sister's husband, I know I shouldn't be angry with her. I filtered every one of them. Already 5 months pregnant. I don't need extra tension. God bless my spouse. He later drove me to ice cream and comforted me when I started to cry. I want to be past this. Update. I guess I could write a more detailed update because I cooled down now. I needed it, so thank you to everyone for your support. Like a locomotive, the email from my ex suddenly hit me. I could see all he has done to me flashing back. You folks really deserve a thorough update. As I indicated in my last post, he responded within an hour following the return email I gave him. 2 further emails from my sister and mother arrived a few hours later. They forwarded them to my old email account, which I barely use today. I strive to keep a low profile. I have no idea how they learned about my pregnancy. I have not uploaded my baby bump pictures on social media or made any announcements yet. I just follow friends on Instagram, but it terrifies me. I started bawling on the spot. Fortunately, Tony, my husband, was here. He held me then laid me on the couch. He is totally familiar with me. I never covered anything from him. I worried a little bit about my sister's and mom's finding of me. He comforted me knowing that I live hundreds of miles from them. We live on the other side of our nation, after all. To ease me, he brought me for ice cream. Funny, it took 2 ice cream cones to at last help me relax. I informed him about my worries and that my sister and mother could insist to see my baby, a girl. To be on the lookout for them, he claimed he would chat to his police officer uncle. He will fight for it even if they visit here and press themselves on me. He told me not to worry about my ex, he is going to discuss this with his friend, a lawyer. He cannot damage me anymore. Even now my husband joked that he would migrate countries should he have to. Finally, someone on my post advised me to let the daycare know about my mother and sister should they attempt to abduct my child. Not that we intend to send her to childcare. I decided I would quit my job and take care of my baby and concentrate on healing from giving birth even though I am working right now. This is my own choice. I do have some reasonable savings in my personal bank. When our little princess is somewhat older, I will return to work. My in-laws are very remarkable. Living nearby are my Mill and Phil. They both are decent people who could assist with my child. You should not worry as well. Apart from my in-laws, I have a decent support system as well. Basically, Tina and her friend Jenny adopted me. Funny. They constantly supported me and are truly nice individuals. Though I have no idea what the future holds, at least I am surrounded by some decent people I never knew growing up. I shall now take your leave and enjoy my spouse treating me. I will keep you folks informed should something major occur. Blocked are my mother, sister and ex-partners. Not one update has come since. Second story. My husband's nephew rested his hand on me while asleep. Tell anyone, this entire family will be destroyed. The godson and nephew of my husband is 17. For a month my husband received a job offer abroad. We live in a house, and my sister-in-law, husband's sister, advised me to stay with them in their guest room as I felt uneasy being alone in the house. Even with me coming from a shattered home without family to adore me, especially his oldest sister, 47, I love my husband's family, a large, loving family that took me in and accepted me with open hearts and arms. I am 32 and my hubby is 41. Living with my sister-in-law was great. Apart from missing my spouse, who I spoke with a few times a day, everything was going perfectly. Being a night owl, I stayed in the living room binge-watching House of the Dragon when everyone went to bed yesterday. I probably nodded out on the couch. Later on when I woke up, my nephew's hand was under my shirt. I shoved him away but he held my mouth and pulled me back on the couch. A few times he struck me hard, telling me to stop moving. I swung a cola glass I had on the coffee table against him. My sister-in-law came downstairs after hearing him grunting in agony. She began battering him and shoving him away. She asked him to visit the guest house, and she followed him most likely to check his head damage since he was bleeding. Later on, she returned and showed me to the bathroom. I had cut my hand with the glass and had peed myself. Later on she stayed with me in the room and handed me sleeping drugs. Today at midday I woke up. Everyone but my sister-in-law was away. Every bit of warmth has disappeared. She said she was quite let down by me. I used her son even though she invited me into her house. She saw everything. She knew the truth, I told her. She said she saw nothing and that nobody would have believed someone like me. She wondered whether breaking this family on my conscience would be on line with my values. She blocked my path when I wanted to depart since what would the family say? I vowed I wouldn't say anything, then started to cry and asked her to let me go. I'm home now and not sure what to do. My husband will be destroyed from this. His family is his pride and jewel in life. He adores them. Suppose he hates me for shattering his family and tarnishing their name. Worse, supposing he doesn't believe me. 3 weeks from now he will be home. By then most likely the black eye will have disappeared. Edit. I apologies. I messed his age. He will be turning 16 in a few months, he is 15. I produced poor arithmetic. Edit 2. I appreciate you answered. I apologies for not answering every query. I should say that lately I spoke with my husband. For him, the regular planned phone call before bed is, but I simply broke down crying and told him everything. FaceTimed me and saw my face. He never likes me to be home alone, hence he told me to prepare a suitcase and wait for his friend to come pick me up. After little more than a year of marriage, my husband and I have been living in this city, his hometown, for a few months. Here I know not many people. Still, he advised me to live with his friend and his family. Good people are those they are. Tomorrow he is flying back here. Thank you. I apologize once more for not being able to respond to everyone. Update. Hi everyone, this is a throwaway account. I got much of encouragement when I wrote here earlier. I owe 100% to the online community for which I followed the right course and informed my husband. If it were up to me and my own ideas I would have just kept this private and tried to go on. I do not want to read all the disgusting and abusive DMs like the ones I received from my first article, hence I will not respond any DMs. I would gladly respond to your comments here, but following this update I am removing this account as well. I would wish to respond to a couple inquiries. First one, a query on my most recent update. Why did my husband believe me without asking questions? Many conjectured that my spouse wasn't very astonished since he presumably knew something about his nephew. No, I asked him this. He simply believes me, not noticing the injuries on my face. I have never given him any grounds not to believe or trust me. Why would my spouse advise me to live with the family of his friend? Many asked why I wasn't independent enough to live on my own alone. To me, this is a brand new town. Coming from a large city with people all around to go to a smaller village as living alone in a large house changed me greatly. I was uneasy, hence my husband advised me to live with his sister and get close to my new family. After what happened though, I returned home. The acts of his nephew stunned my husband, and to be honest, he had no idea what to anticipate from his parents or nephew anymore. He didn't want me alone as he was afraid they might hurt me. He insisted that I kept his family in dark about where I was also. He was just afraid. I apologize for also mistaking his age. Born November 06, he will turn 16 shortly. I made him 17 by doing the arithmetic wrong. The next day following my post, my husband arrived home late in the afternoon. Seeing him now makes me happier than it did years ago. He told his sister he was on his way when phoning her. He looked to have been crying when he returned home. He urged me to pursue charges, but only if I wanted. He questioned whether I wanted to do it. She tried to point the finger on me when he was at his sister's, but he advised her to cease the bullshit. If she truly loved her son, he questioned her why she wasn't more concerned about him, the way he progressed to overpowering a sleeping family member. He also wanted her to explain why she handed me sleeping drugs. About that, I have no idea why I grabbed them. I recently did. Since childhood, I have sadly always followed those I considered to have control over me. She said she couldn't help me relax as I was having panic attacks. She still thought I came on to him though, and denied that her son had behaved in such manner. When my husband spoke with his nephew as well, he was disappointed to see that he showed almost any regret or affectivity at all. He never even offered an apology. I hit him. He said he was attempting to wake me awake as the couch wasn't comfortable. We have written a report. Not much more I could do. To be honest, I wanted it to be out there even if I don't see anything coming of it. The brother of my spouse called to shout at him. Starting with the smear campaign, they have already my spouse shared with them my side. I'm not sure the person they decide to believe. 6 siblings make up my husband's family. We will have to watch this develop. My spouse doesn't particularly want to damage his nephew, who is still a child. He feels he needs aid, but not the kind his parents are providing, enabling him. He also expressed the feeling that many of you have. This lad will do it once more most likely, and I wasn't first. He loves him very deeply, thus it hurts him. But he has to tell others what he is capable of doing to safeguard their families. Over past few days, my hubby has been quiet and aloof. About that, I had no idea what to do. Simply said, I felt somewhat ashamed. I wasn't sure if I should ask his pardon and apologize to him for souring his relationship with his beloved sister and her family. He looked shocked at me when I at last plucked the bravery to do it. He started to cry and admitted he was the one sorry. He saw himself at last providing the large family I had always dreamed of. He held me. I have nothing about my family. I sobbed in his arms. Right now, we are not sure what will happen. Our plans call for us returning to the large city. About my new employment, I have no idea what to do. After few months, I have to stop. Since I teach preschool, it should not be difficult for me to get a new job or retrieve my former one. Still thanks once more. I doubt I will be posting going forward. I simply want to move on and heal. My husband and I are on the brink of divorce, and we are desperately seeking advice. Can our marriage be saved? Throwaway account due to friends' family following the main account, omitting some personal information for sake of anonymity. I'm going to try and make a timeline of events in our relationship for context. TLDR at bottom. Met when we were 9, started dating at 12, mind you this was that middle school type of dating. He cheated on me when we were 15 or 16, at this point we were on again, off again, which continued until we were 17. I got a full ride to a university across the country for athletics and academics when I was 18. My first and only semester there, I hated. I hated the team and the coaches and I had no friends. He flew out to visit me and we got engaged at 18 years old. He flew back a little over a month later and we had a courthouse wedding. I came home after the semester finished. He was 18 and I was 19 when he joined a very difficult prestigious branch of the military. He left for 3 months for training, which was difficult but we did fine. He came back for a few weeks and then left for a few more months for school for his particular job. During this time, I would later find out, he signed himself up on Bumble, and paid $50+ in upgrades for more swipes. He insists he never met anyone from it and no conversations that he had were ever anything more than introductions. He also, again, I would later find out a few years later, spent over $600 at a strip club. He says he was pressured by seniors to go and ended up paying for a VIP room for one of his buddies because he got the room and then didn't have the money to pay for it, and my husband said his friend was going to get into trouble. That weekend, he would go up and down the coast going to various clubs and another strip club from what I've gathered. At 19, we moved states and got our first house together. At 20, he deployed. This would be a very difficult time in our lives, and even more difficult after he got home. He developed a pornography addiction while deployed. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor at 4 a.m. refreshing one of his social media accounts, which I could see his following numbers go up about every 5 minutes. All porn accounts. He pressured me for pictures and videos, and I would feel guilty for not doing the things he wanted, and I felt like if I didn't he was just going to find someone else to do it for him. He came home 6 months later and we were okay, except I noticed after a few weeks that as soon as he came home from work he would practically beeline it to the bathroom and shower for 45+ minutes. Sometimes I would even go into the bathroom after and I could tell he dropped the bottle of lube on the ground and it was still slippery. Or I could see the ring on the counter from the bottom of the bottle. I did my best to ignore it until one day I saw a charge on our account for $30 to someone with a very interesting name. I confronted him and he immediately looked away, took a deep breath, brushed his hand through his hair and sputtered out a quick excuse that it was his buddy's wife who bought them all lunch during work. I don't know why, but I said okay and left it at that. He got up a few minutes later saying he felt sick and went to lay down. I got a text from him an hour later saying he was sorry and that he developed a pornography addiction over deployment and he sent money to a girl for her premium Snapchat or something. He says he felt so guilty he didn't even look at anything and he deleted her right after he sent the money. I realized that the day this transaction took place, he had bought me flowers. He has never done that before, not even on any special occasions. From here on the dates get confusing for me. I don't remember what happened first or when or how far apart, but I'll do my best to include as much information as I remember. Sometime later, maybe weeks, maybe months, I woke up to a message from an old acquaintance on a certain social media site. I think we were still 20 or maybe 21. I don't remember what exactly she said, something along the lines of, "I just wanted you to know Hex said this to me." Or something like that. He had messaged her the night prior, whilst drinking at a friend's house down the road, that he loved and missed her. I wish so badly I could remember more, but for some reason I can't. I know she said something like, "You can't be saying that you're married." And he said something along the lines of, "I don't care." I screamed at him to wake up, but he was still drunk. I told him I wanted a divorce. I locked myself in the bathroom and hurt myself because I wanted to feel anything other than how I felt at that moment. I don't know how much time passed. When he opened the door, he said he didn't send those messages. He said that he left his phone plugged into the speaker and his friend was using it to play music. He said his friend must have seen the girl's story and messaged her trying to get nudes. He even pulled out his phone with proof, a text conversation between him and his friend confirming that the friend had messaged her and said he was sorry. I don't know why, but I believed him immediately. I remember having the most euphoric feeling of, I don't know what the word is, but whatever you feel when you let out a breath you've been holding and say, "Oh, thank God." I'm getting frustrated writing this because I'm realizing how much I'm forgetting and I feel like I'm missing something. At 21 I think, shit hit the fan. I think at this point I had gone through his phone several times and found internet history and links that he had clicked through one of his social media accounts to hundreds of different OnlyFans sites. One night I went through his entire dollar account history since 2018 and found the charge for the strip club and Bumble. He said the Bumble charge wasn't him, it was a senior who used his card because he had gotten frozen or something ridiculous like that. I of course believed him. I don't know why. I can't remember at what point I found out that he lied about messaging the girl on social media. I think it was after I had looked through his phone again and I found text messages between him and his friend that was the one who allegedly sent the messages. His friend said something like, "Bro, I can't even go to parties that your wife is at because she hates me LOL, or something like that. But they both confirmed what I didn't want to believe. My husband had taken my phone, deleted the messages sent to me by the girl, and got his friend in on this elaborate story. I can't remember when I found out that he did in fact download and pay for upgrades on Bumble. I think I just knew at this point he was lying, and grilled him long enough that he relented. He said he never met anyone or anything, and he said during the conversation, "I only paid for the upgrade because no one would ever swipe for me." Or something like that. I can't remember at what point we went to legal on base and got information to file for divorce. I'd never seen him cry before besides one other time. After we got married, at the airport, he cried so hard and he wouldn't let me see. Just hugged me and buried my face in his chest so I wouldn't see. He said he didn't want to leave. But he cried constantly after I told him this was it and that I had an appointment and paperwork filled out to file for divorce. I'd never seen him like this before. Constantly saying he was sorry, deleting every social media account he'd ever owned. Crying at the drop of a pin. Saying things like he will never marry again, I could have everything in our savings, he'd pay for me to finish college if that's what I wanted. I relented and we went to marriage counseling. He stepped up a lot. He was never on his phone anymore. Would keep his phone unlocked and face up on the table. Told me I could go through it any time I asked. Promised to stop watching porn. He even started cleaning the house and making dinner before I got home from work. He stopped drinking with his friends. It was a complete 180. For a while. The issues started to arise when every little thing would trigger a panic attack. He couldn't hang out with his friends without me freaking out. He began drinking with his friends again maybe a few weeks later. One night he wasn't home by the time he told me he would be and I just broke. I ended up in the hospital and it was just the start of this toxic cycle. He would do something that would trigger me. Whether it be drinking with his friends or the occasional YouTube short I would see in his watch history of a half-naked woman with her tits out and bouncing up and down. I would scream at him and berate him and degrade him because I wanted him to feel exactly how I felt. I think marriage counseling eventually helped a lot. After the hospital I finally got my own therapist. She was my best friend. I still text her to this day. I didn't have any friends where we lived. He worked with his friends every day and every weekend they would all party. I didn't have anyone. My friends and family were back home. I'm shy and have really bad social anxiety and have always had trouble making friends because I can't seem to ever open my mouth when there's more than 3 people in the room. Whenever he would leave to go anywhere, I felt so alone. I think at 22 our marriage really started improving again. We went on vacation together and were able to work through a lot of issues and we were able to communicate things we were feeling and it was amazing. We both felt so heard and we were able to find happy mediums on issues and relayed boundaries that each of us respected. I was 23 when I moved home a few months before his contract ended. He tied up his loose ends on the house and work and he moved back home with me. He tried working a night shift blue-collar job, making good money, even more than he made in the military. But he hated it. He hated everything about it. He missed his friends and his job. His friends were his family. This was the first time I'd ever seen him truly depressed. 5 months later he joined a different branch of the military. I didn't want him to. I wanted him to stay and have a normal life with me. I wanted to work normal jobs and have a family. He doesn't. He said he doesn't even want a family. I had started nursing school and my best friend whom I hardly ever got to see had a baby. I finally had a group of friends and family I was able to hang out with every week. He left and got stationed in a different state, but only about 600 miles away this time. Far, but drivable. He came home for a visit after only a week of being there. We were doing good at this point, texting and calling a lot. A little over a month ago he left to go across the country for a 6-week exercise in the desert. He didn't have his phone for most of it, but he was able to text me once over a week ago. He didn't text again after that, until I messaged him letting him know that a pet of mine had died. He replied immediately. I've realized that he has had his phone, but just hasn't been talking to me. Yesterday, he texted me in the morning letting me know that he was going to spend an upcoming holiday with an old military friend from his previous branch, and then the holiday after that he wanted to go see his extended family in a different state. We've talked a lot since then, not about anything good. I've asked why he's pushing me away and he said he's focusing on his goals. I said I felt like I was being put on the back burner until he was ready to acknowledge me and our marriage and I tried to tell him he didn't have to be alone and that I would support him. He said, "You can't though. You say you can but you didn't support college or the CIA so I kinda felt I should just do this alone and get rid of some of the negativity." And I realized he was right. He brought up college when we were about 21, maybe 22 and I actually scoffed at him because I didn't realize he was being serious. I didn't believe he could do something like that. He barely graduated high school. He went to 4 different high schools total, never getting above a 1.5 GPA. I tried doing his homework to keep him afloat but he didn't care. I even got him enrolled in the same online academy that I attended, due to public school not fitting around my athletic schedule, and I had to do every class and every assignment for him because he would never do them. He ended up graduating from what you would call an alternative high school. After telling me he wanted to go to college, he then told me he was going to join the CIA. This was just unfathomable to me. I didn't know what to do because he wanted my support, but I also didn't want to lie to him and tell him I believed in him. I guess I still don't. And I feel awful, and I can't imagine the feeling of your spouse not supporting you unconditionally. I don't know how to support him in something I just don't think he can do. And now we're here. Neither of us want a divorce. Both of us know our relationship hasn't been the best. We both don't know what to do. I would feel so lost and empty without him. I've known him for more than half of my life. Our personalities are formed around each other. We talk the same. We have the same mannerisms. We experienced growing up together and becoming adults together. I just want to add that these experiences I've listed were the worst times. We've had amazing experiences together. We have so much fucking fun together. He makes me laugh more than anyone else can. He knows everything about me and has been there for every important moment in my life. I'm absolutely terrified of the future. I'm scared to tell my family if we get a divorce. I don't want to be another statistic. I know we got married young. I know we are a military family. I know that most of these marriages ended in divorce, but I really fucking thought we were different. I don't want to start over. I'm almost 24 and I know that's still considered young, but I've known him for 14 years. I thought we would have started thinking about having a family together by now. He just wants to focus on his career and says he doesn't think he even wants a family. I don't know what to do anymore. If you're still here, thanks for reading. I apologize if I'm all over the place. I haven't ever shared all this with anyone. I'm embarrassed of my situation and feel at a loss at what to do anymore. I'm really nervous to read any replies because I think I know what they're all going to say. TLDR, married young, he's in the military, history of infidelity on his part, verbal abuse on my part and lack of support. Have had successful marriage counseling in the past, but we're at the point where we feel like we want different things, but both of us still love each other and don't want a divorce. Neither of us know what to do. Update 1. After over 1,000 people castigating me in the comment section, I wanted to sort of give an update and answer a few questions. First off, yes, I can in fact type like a motherfucker. I had every intention of creating this post with anonymity, which obviously went down the drain as soon as I started typing. I didn't think this would get more than a couple thousand views and a handful of comments. I typed out every ignominious detail because I needed to see for myself everything in one spot. Someone said I must be exhausting to be around if I tell my friends and family all this. Well, you'll be happy to know that no one knows. I have never told any of my friends and family even a percentage of what has happened. That's why I ended up writing an epic. I wanted someone to know everything and tell me what to do because my brain has become this convoluted, the rose-colored type of convoluted, mess of, I don't even know. I have made my husband out to be this strong, loving, endearing, charismatic provider. And I know why. I've spent my entire life wanting to be the fucking best at everything. My dad's favorite thing he used to say to me every day after practice was second place is just the first loser. And I fucking held on to that. I was the best. I was the best at school. I ranked #1 out of my high school class of over 700 people. I have hundreds of medals and trophies. I did take second place at nationals one year, even though that doesn't feel like an accomplishment to me. I know it should be. But after dropping out of college and leaving behind a full-ride athletic and academic scholarship, I wanted it to be worth something. I never told anyone I left because I hated it and couldn't deal with it. I told everyone I got married and he joined the Marine Corps and I wanted to support him. I didn't want anyone to realize that I couldn't hack it. I wanted it to be worth it. And if I had marriage problems or if I got divorced, it would have just been for nothing. I would have lost again. And I can't lose. I grew up hiding in my closet hearing my dad scream at the top of his lungs at my older siblings because they averaged C's and D's in school. I knew what losing would get you. And I would not lose. My mom cheated on my dad when I was a kid. I remember waking up one morning to them screaming on the front lawn, my mom trying to get into her car to go to work and my dad grabbed her arm and ripped her out of the car. They don't know that I saw that. They worked through it, if that's what you want to call it. I thought that was what you were supposed to do. I thought that marriage was supposed to be hard and you were supposed to put every ounce of yourself into fixing your ups and downs. Many have asked if I want to live the rest of my life like this. Of course I don't. Who the fuck would want that? Why did I stay even after the first time? Well, starving people will eat anything. I have actually read every single comment, even the hurtful ones. God damn, you guys are fucking assholes, and I needed it. I fucking needed over 1,000 people telling me I'm a blind idiot to realize that marriage isn't supposed to be like this. And that I deserve better. Because I fucking do. I do fucking deserve better. And for all those saying I'm not going to leave because I haven't yet. I will fucking prove you wrong. I'm not going back anymore. I'm not going to fucking settle. I had heard the phrase sunk cost fallacy, but I didn't know what it meant. I do now. Thank you to everyone. Even the ones who believe this post was a creative writing assignment. It gave me a laugh realizing that my life and my marriage has been so bad, that it's unbelievable. Last side note, yes, I did comment with my main account a few times. It doesn't even matter anymore. And feel free to shoot me a message and tell me I got this, because I'm going to fucking need it. I feel like I've been rug pulled near the edge of a cliff and I can't find my footing. I don't know where the ground is and when it will come. But I know wherever I land it will be better than where I am currently. Update 2. Hi everyone, it's been almost a year. I can't believe it's been almost an entire year. I don't think I've ever made an update like this before, so hopefully I do it right and it's not removed. I meant to update sooner, I really did. But I have been busy living my life to the fullest extent possible. I can honestly say I didn't even think it was possible to enjoy life this much. I have never experienced happiness like this. I'm honestly having a hard time putting it into words how amazing my life has become. I filed for divorce probably within 48 hours of making that post. Papers were signed a month later, divorce was finalized 2 months after that. It was completely uncontested, we shared no assets, no children, thank God. It was actually a lot easier than I expected it to be. Honestly, the hardest part was telling my family, especially my mom. Everyone loved him so much because I, unfortunately, made him out to be so perfect. It was pretty much a slap to the face for her to find out. I felt awful. She cried for days. But she was so supportive of me. Everyone was so damn supportive of me. I turned 25 soon. I decided to get my nurse practitioner's license. So that's the track I'm on right now. I've made an incredible amount of friends this year. If I'm not working, I'm out having fun. I'm always doing something fun every day. I'll try to reply to any comments but I'm so busy these days. I have truly begun to find myself. And I'm fucking awesome. I am capable of so much. And I am brave. I am so brave. I did make one special friend from my original post, Bethany200300. Thanks to you and my best friend Katie, if you guys are reading this. Thank you for keeping me accountable and loving me unconditionally. I really didn't realize what a horrendous situation I was in. At least, not until after I made that initial post and received so many eye-opening comments. Lots of people were right though, I did already know the answer to my question. It's actually kind of weird thinking about it. It doesn't even feel real. Whenever I try to think about my life over the last couple of years, I can hardly remember anything. It's almost like I'm trying to recall a story that someone else told me. Anything that I do remember, I recall almost like I was a spectator, or an invisible third person in the room. And I just think this poor girl and what she's going through, I can't even imagine how awful. It just doesn't even feel like it was me. My real life started as soon as he was gone. We don't speak anymore. We haven't really spoken much since December. One of the last interactions we had, he was upset about the divorce and regretted it, and then he proceeded to threaten that he would murder anybody that I dated in the future. Yes, it's documented to the best of my ability. I don't think he would ever actually do anything like that. He hasn't even been back in the state this year. I think he's too busy. Last I heard through the grapevine, he got drunk, had a one-night stand and got some girl pregnant. She wants to keep the baby. He doesn't. I think she even took a brick to his car and smashed the shit out of it. If I could give him one last piece of advice, it would be to start a savings account for this poor kid's future therapy bills. And to ask him if he ever realized that almost all of his monumental life mistakes have been committed under the influence of alcohol. But alas, it isn't my problem. He will never hear from me again. And I can say that with complete happiness and confidence. To everyone who said I wouldn't do it and that I wasn't capable of leaving, fuck you and thank you. I did leave. I didn't walk, I ran. I fucking sprinted. And I didn't look back. Thank you, Reddit, for helping me save my life. To anyone who may be going through something similar. You can do it, I believe in you. If I can do it, you can too. The other side is brighter than you could ever imagine. Am I the asshole for laughing when my aunt told my stepmom that depression doesn't excuse sleeping with a married man? Sorry for the long title, I really had no idea what title to explain the situation. My first language is Spanish. Long story short, 2 years ago my father left my mother to go with his mistress, whom I will call Anna, common name. My mother never had any idea about the infidelity. Anna knew that my father was married, she even went to the house with him to take his things. One day he simply told my mother that he is no longer in love with her and wants to be happy with Anna. I was there when everything happened. Anna was depressed. She had many scars on her legs and arms. I don't go to my father's house. It makes me uncomfortable to be around them for obvious reasons. Anna is overly nice and it's really uncomfortable. A few days ago it was my grandfather's birthday and the whole family was together, including Anna. I have an aunt who suffers from depression and other more heavy things like schizophrenia. She has tried to hurt herself many times. At one point in the night there was only my father, my aunt, Anna, another aunt and I in the living room. For some reason my aunt and Anna were talking about some serious things and at one point and began to say that depression made her do many things trying to feel fulfilled, that she could only overcome depression when she met my father and he saved her, that meeting him was the key to overcome her depression and now she's finally happy thanks to him. I know about that because Anna often tried to bond with me by telling me how much she suffered in her life and how my father saved her. She has always justified herself that she was depressed and was in a hard place in her life before my father saved her. It always makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't feel empathy for her no matter how sweet she is. Talking about how many times you try to kill yourself in front of my 8-year-old sister, it's not something normal. Anna has always tried to paint her relationship with my father as a fairy tale that began in a different way but that she doesn't regret anything because her world is perfect now. At that moment my aunt said something like, I tried to save myself by going to a psychologist, not by jumping on the dick of a married man. And then she began to say that depression made her want to jump off a bridge but not ruin a family. I just laughed. It was funny. My aunt may have her mind elsewhere all day but it was crazy to see her make such a sly comment. But when my father was taking me home Anna was crying and he scolded me for laughing at what my aunt said, saying that no one knows everything that Anna suffered. I know, she always talks about that. I didn't apologize, but now I think, was I really wrong to laugh? From my point of view, my aunt was right. Update 1, hello, some things happened over the weekend. My aunt came home, I live with my mother, and told my mom what happened. My mother hates my dad for obvious reasons, but still she's been really nice to him and tried to keep us out of all those problems they have. My mother is honestly a saint. My sister is an 8-year-old girl and she really hates Anna. Anna once tried to get along with my sister and told her about the time she wanted to commit suicide and how my dad saved her. After that my sister came home asking my mother if she had ever thought about committing suicide. That's not a question an 8-year-old girl should ask and my sister even asked me questions about suicide after that. I don't really know what else exactly Anna said to her but it definitely affected her as a little girl. It's not even something you should talk about with a girl of that age. My mother was furious and since that day she forbids my father to have my younger sister near Anna as she considers her a dangerous and unstable person around children. Since that day things have been really tense between my father and my mother. My little sister doesn't want to visit our father, so she is fine with this. My aunt told my mother that Anna talked about it again but this time in front of me. Apparently my father and Anna were totally forbidden to talk about these things in front of me too. I'm not a little kid but apparently that was the arrangement my mother made with my father when she set boundaries for them. My aunt told her what happened that day and I confessed to my mother that Anna and my father talk a lot about those suicide attempts in front of me, which is something I should have talked about before, but at that moment I didn't want problems and decided to just ignore them. I told my mom that for that reason I am not going to my father's house anymore and my mother got very upset with him. The next day she went to talk to my father. I don't know what they talked about, she just came back saying that Anna can't get close to us anymore. She told me that she can't forbid me from being near my father and that's my decision but Anna is extremely forbidden to set foot in the same place where I and my sister are. My paternal grandparents agreed and my aunts too, they knew about the situation with my younger sister. I haven't spoken to my father, but my cousin told me that my father argued with my grandfather. He often says that Anna is a good person and we don't understand the pain she suffered, so I guess he's upset with all of us now for our great lack of empathy, as he always says. I don't know. At least now I won't see them for a while. It was a boring update but that's what happened. Ha ha. Update 2. Hi. I wasn't planning to make another update but we've had a lot of problems with Anna, too many and I think now even my father has realized that she's crazy. I have stopped going to see my father and my father's parents stopped allowing him to go with Anna to their house since I am there a lot and my mother does not allow her to come near me or my sister. Anna began to have the strange behavior of starting to send me texts. First she apologized to me but insisted that my father misses me and my sister. I replied to her that my mother does not allow us to talk to her and she said that she is my father's partner, so we have to get used to her being around. She started to talk badly about my mother, saying that I'm too young to realize it but my mother is manipulating us and that's wrong because she's not allowing us to be a family. I'm young but I'm not dumb. I didn't answer her again and showed the messages to my mother who spoke to my father again. My father knew nothing about this and apparently had an argument with Anna about this, since now my mother is planning to take away his last name from our name to end this shit show and protect us. I don't understand too much about this, but in my country you can go to court and take out your father's surname, making him have no right over you anymore. I honestly believe that neither my sister nor I would have any problem with this, but I think my mother just said that to scare him. This is something I heard from my aunt, and I don't know how much of this is real, but my father has been staying at my grandparents' house. One of those nights Anna went to knock on the door looking for him just to argue. She and my father began to argue. Anna yelled at my dad that he couldn't leave her like that, but nothing else happened because my grandfather kicked her out. My aunt also told me that my father told her that Anna sends him messages like, "If you leave me I will kill myself. You can't leave me." So my father is afraid of leaving her and afraid of her. Less than 2 days ago I found out that my father had to leave work quickly because she sent him goodbye messages. Nothing happened to her, she just cut her arms as always. My aunt said that this is something that Anna has always done. Even when the affair started, she sent him messages saying that she was about to commit suicide so that my father would go to her. This is something that Anna also told me, but in a more romantic way. It always scared me. I have no contact with my father and I avoid him when he's at Grandpa's house, but as far as my aunt has told me, he doesn't know what to do since he misses us but is afraid to leave her and that she will kill herself. I feel bad for thinking this, but I'm really relieved to be hearing all this from afar. I'm so thankful that my mom forbade us to see her before all this happens, and honestly this is his karma, so I'm not going to get into this. My best friends and wife forgot my big moment, and now I'm struggling to cope with the betrayal. Pretext: I completely understand there are much greater tragedies out there than what I'm about to describe. Need to write this out and appreciate any feedback or strategies. Myself, my wife and friends from college, including best friend and his wife, have been doing a college football pick'em league for the last 12 years. It's for fun, but I'd say most everyone takes it somewhat seriously. Since we've had the league, different people won, but for 6 years in a row one particular guy kept winning. Each year, we have a big tailgate party at a game where the winner of the previous year is honored with a speech and trophy. Last year, we even arranged for a surprise cameo to be played at the tailgate for the guy who won his 6th in a row. I broke his streak last year and won the league, but I was also the person who typically got the trophy and arranged the cameo or some of the other cool things we've done. So yesterday was our big tailgate, and it was my chance at being recognized as the person who won the previous year. A few hours in, my wife had a few drinks and said, "I don't even know what we're doing this year for. Person who won 6 years in a row." Then I said that actually I had won, and her whole face changed. Our friend standing next to her turned white as a ghost. First they laughed, then said, "No wait, it was you." I realized that until that moment it hadn't occurred to them, or anyone, to do anything. There was no trophy, speech, anything. My best friend quickly gets told by my wife that they forgot to do something and says nothing. Can't make eye contact. Gets worse for me. After it sets in, I'm in the bathroom an hour later. I walk out and some people start clapping, because my wife had awkwardly arranged for the crowd at the party to do something. It's worse, because the guy who won 6 years in a row and had been a recipient of some cool stuff is laughing hysterically that everyone forgot to do anything. I'm just sad. I don't really want to talk to my wife. She gave me a very short apology this morning and offered sex to cheer me up. Made it worse? Drove 6 hours home crying here and there, wondering how a group of people I love and care about would drop the ball. Sent a text out to some saying how shitty it was to be forgotten. Sucks. I'm sure tomorrow I'll be less sad. Relevant comments. Comment 1, you're the planner. You're the one that keeps people together and makes sure no one or thing is forgotten. So when you don't do all the work, no one else does. It's really crappy they forgot to celebrate your win. You deserved a hurrah and they let you down. Really sorry OP. Congrats. Comment 2, they did drop the ball, and then handled it really inappropriately. Sincere apologies were needed ASAP and then making it up to you. I'd truly join another league just to take your mind off it and detach a little from that scene. Even if they don't do celebrations, you're the planner of the group that still isn't cool. I hate football, but this got me worked up. Comment 3, everyone likes to accept rewards and praise, but not everyone likes to return the favor. OP went out of their way to make sure whoever won had a good time and felt special, for 6 years, and got nothing in return when it was his time to shine. And to top it off, his wife is trying to downplay it and act like he's overreacting. Feels bad. Least they could do is apologize, especially the MF who laughed after OP is the one who made his win special in the first place. Comment 4, next time your wife is upset, offer her sex to cheer her up. Comment 5, this isn't stupid at all. You're validated in feeling how you do, and it's shitty as fuck that your friends, and wife, Didn't recognize how important this was to you. I totally get it. It isn't about fantasy football. It's the pretense of the entire situation. Honestly, if it were me, I would tell my friends via phone call or face to face, not text, and tell them how it made you feel unappreciated as a member of the friend group, as well as how it hurt how they reacted after realizing you were the winner, not because it was over a game of fantasy football, but because this is clearly something you all put effort and emphasis into for multiple years, and there's no excuse for just brushing you off. I would also tell your wife how it made you feel with offering sex. Sex isn't something to be rewarded or withheld, and that set off smoke alarm bells for me personally. You deserve to be surrounded by people who appreciate you the same way you do for them. This isn't something to accept, it's important that you say something. I know it's uncomfy, but it's worth it. Sending you love, OP. Thank you very much, really. I teared up that anyone felt sympathetic. I'm in my house and feel like I'm on an island by myself. Update. It's tomorrow, after a night where I slept in the guest bedroom. Late last night I got an email apology from the girl who turned white when she found out. My wife woke up at 6 to get ready for work, and I was up helping kids get ready for school. She wanted to talk, and asked if I could talk also. I was half awake and didn't have any thoughts put together. The first thing she says is that I need to keep perspective. She said that it's not as if she cheated on me, she forgot something big, but there are much worse things that could have happened. I didn't respond. She asked how long she was going to be punished for this, and I just responded by saying it wasn't all about her. She is visibly frustrated and I'm too afraid to say something that will ignite her. I feel like she's desperate for me to say anything. I realize she's not comforting me or trying to understand. She wants full resolution before we have to take kids trick or treating tonight. That's it for now. She texted good morning, and I haven't responded. Relevant comments. Comment 1. When the planner doesn't plan, shit doesn't get done. I am sorry that your lame-ass friends didn't treat you well by remembering to celebrate your win. I'm even more sorry that none of them had the guts to come clean and apologize in front of the group for being such a shitty friend. And finally, to the guy that laughed, and who no one shut down when he was, please accept my 2-finger salute over the internet. Now that I've established that I'm firmly on your side, I ask you, what do you want to have happen now? Think long and hard about what it is that you want. Yes, this whole fantasy football thing is shitty. But what sort of friends are these guys outside of this situation? Would you call them if you needed help moving? And would they come? If you suffered a real tragedy, would any of them be another shoulder to cry on? If you have kids, or were to have kids in the future, would you invite these people to be a part of your child's life? If these people are merely the college fantasy football bros, then maybe you need to consider letting them all go. You've devoted considerable time and effort, and maybe money, into making these events fun for them. But when the time came for them to return the favor, they didn't care enough to get the job done. I don't blame them for not being more sincere in their apologies on the day this all went down. By your account, they were all caught flat-footed, and it's hard for most of us to admit our mistakes and apologize properly when we're still processing what an asshole we've been. Have any of them reached out since? Only you can decide how much these people mean to you and whether you want them in your life going forward. If I were you, I would write a huge screed about everything I'd done for the group over the past years, trying to make this event a yearly spectacle. I wouldn't cuss or throw around insults, but I would make it very clear to everyone that this event is so much fun every year because of my hard work. Then I'd end it with how disappointed I was that none of them saw fit to return the favor when I was the winner. I would absolutely point out that the previous winner laughed and was a complete jerk, and that it was shitty of them not to shut that noise down, but I'm petty like that. Maybe you're not that petty. I'd fire this off into the group chat, or whatever you guys use to communicate, and see what happens. Maybe you'll get a ton of heartfelt apologies, and they'll plan an extravaganza in your honor, and all will be well. Or maybe you'll get back a bunch of hate, and you'll see their true colors. Either way, you'll have your answer as to what sort of friends they really are. Once you've sorted the friends situation, you'll need to sort things with your wife. I have a lot of questions for her, and I imagine you do too. Why didn't she organize something to celebrate your win, for starters? The wife might be something that requires marriage counseling, but only you two can determine that. OP. I don't know. I don't want anything. As of this morning, I'm just wanting to not have this tension with my wife. But I'm kinda stuck on feeling let down, and she's supposed to be the person that doesn't do that. Comment 2. Is your wife always as shitty as she seems here? OP. No, she's great, and a wonderful partner. But one major part of her personality is that she hates any feeling of having done something wrong. It's like she becomes a different person. Comment 3. So, bad sex and a weak apology is how she makes up for it. Comment 4. And then getting upset at OP for feeling hurt and making it about herself. Am I the asshole for getting rid of the foster child my family has had for 7 years, and I don't care if it makes me a bad person? Firstly, please reserve judgment until the end. If you still think I'm a bad person after reading this, I won't stop you. I'm a 30-year-old man. My mom was a foster carer for the last 11 years before she passed away, and she made me promise that I would take over when she died. She had heart failure but had lived for 7 years after diagnosis. She had 2 foster children, John and Paul. John came to live with us when I was 19 years old and he was 8 and had severe behavioral issues linked to his trauma. My world was turned upside down. But I very quickly grew to love him. Underneath the trauma and the difficulties, he was an amazing boy who I loved with my entire heart. He's now 19 himself and still lives with me. He just finished high school and I have no plans to move him out until he is ready. John and I have a great relationship. On the other hand, Paul is 16 years old. He came to live with us when he was 9. Paul has severe special needs, and no matter how much I've tried, I just cannot connect with him in the same way I did for John. Whereas John's behavior never bothered me, with Paul they do. I find him frustrating and I have to remind myself that he is only on the same level as a 3/4-year-old mentally, and it's not fair that I get frustrated at him. When Mum was still alive, she took the main role of looking after Paul, and I supported her. Which was okay, but I knew that when she was gone I would struggle with him by myself. I didn't sign up to do this. I didn't sign up to look after him for the rest of my life, I just didn't. Mum died 6 months ago, and I said to myself I would try. I kept Paul for all this time, but I just can't cope with him. I can't. I told my social worker that he needs to be moved by the end of the month because I just can't manage. I want to continue fostering, and I love being a foster carer. But I just cannot meet his needs, and it was different when Mum was still alive. I feel so guilty because I made my mum a promise that I would care for him until he was at least 18. But I'm building resentment towards him and it isn't fair on him. He deserves to have someone who loves and cares for him in the ways that I just can't. So yeah, call me selfish, call me scum. Whatever, I deserve it. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Have you looked into state programs that could help with having a nurse or special needs caregiver to help with the burden? Uprooting Paul could hurt him even more, and he might be looking at you for support. Look into some programs to help and see what they say. If you need to move Paul, make sure you can discuss it with him. With him having a mind of a 3/4-year-old, that does some real damage to him if you aren't careful. My condolences and good luck. Edit. The other commenters are providing good advice and words of encouragement. OP. I've tried everything, any and all resources and support there is. When he's at school it's not too bad. He has a transport to and from school every day and has a career who comes and takes him out for 5 hours each week. Plus I have 2 days each month where he is sent to a different foster carer, so I can have some peace time. But even with the support I can't manage it. I feel guilty for giving up, but I honestly tried my best. This doesn't mean I'm cutting him off completely. I'll still visit him sometimes. But I can't meet his needs and I really tried. OP responds to multiple questions about suck it in and continuing with fostering Paul, and if there are any programs or residential homes that work with people like Paul. OP, no. Don't worry, they already have a place for him in a residential home. I don't know if the system is different in different countries, but giving notice here on a placement isn't seen as the end of you fostering, and I didn't have to justify it beyond, I just can't cope, luckily. Because I would have broken down if I had had to find justifications for it. It's funny, my mum used to say that the agency would always have had a way harder time playing John than Paul. John has very mild learning disabilities, but mainly linked to trauma. And had very bad behavior, even now, linked to his trauma, even though it's way better than when he was 8. Lol. He's given me black eyes and bloody noses, smashed my laptops and TVs. And there was never a point, throughout all of that, where I ever thought I wouldn't give up on him. I would foster another child like him in a heartbeat and struggled to see why anyone wouldn't. To me he was just a kid in a tough spot and our love helped him. My mum explained to me that children like him are actually harder to place because people are less forgiving of behaviors without a cause they can physically see, like an obvious learning disability. I really tried to extend that to Paul, genuinely I did. I just couldn't. It just didn't click. I can't do the care he needs, sadly. And it's gutting for me because I really tried. And even though, I don't feel that intense love for him that I do for John. I would never want Paul to be put in harm, or not cared for. That isn't how the foster care system works. Me being unable to cope with Paul, who has extreme needs, means I should never be able to care for potential 10s of children that I can support throughout my lifetime. Because I cannot support one child is severe. Sen means that any potential foster children that I could support should what? Just continue living in residential group homes. Have a think about how that logic works for you. Me admitting I can't cope with one child means that 10s of future children could go without care and love in your world. Does that make sense to you? He is already on the highest package of support, which is immense, and I'm entirely grateful to my agency. But even with it, I'm not in a position to support him how he needs it, unfortunately. He already has a place in a residential home, and I will still visit him. I don't want to just move him there and pretend he never was part of my life. I'm not that heartless, at least LOL update. It has now been a few days since Paul moved out, so I thought I would give a little update. Firstly, I want to thank everyone who took the time to read my previous post and for those who offered support and understanding. It meant a lot, honestly. Paul has been placed with a new family who specialize in caring for children with severe special needs. I believe this is the best environment for him, and he seems to be settling in well. I am keeping in touch with his new carers, and they've assured me that he's receiving the care and attention he needs. At first the house felt different. Quieter but also emptier. There's a lingering sense of guilt, but I'm also more at peace knowing he's in a place better suited to his needs. John and I have had more time to spend together, which has been nice. We've talked a lot about everything that's happened, and I'm grateful for his understanding and support. I've also started seeing a therapist to help work through the guilt I've been feeling and to help me grieve. Yesterday, my agency reached out saying they have 2 little boys needing housing for a short-term placement. They said initially 6 weeks, but it could be extended. They are coming tomorrow, and I'm excited. They're 9 and 11 and are coming directly from their birth families. This will be my first proper placement, so I would be lying if I said I didn't feel a little anxious. Thank you again to everyone who reached out. Relevant comments. Comment 1. It sounds like everything is working out well for both you and John as well. Paul and the kids you're able to help now with these 2 and in the future. Good job taking care of yourself in this difficult time with therapy too. Comment 2. So glad to hear you made the right decision. Sounds like you're very awesome and I hope your new placement will be a good fit. Debbie Coleman 1010. Good luck to you and all the boys. You did the right thing for you all. You tried and it just didn't work out, and anyone telling you differently has never even come close to taking care of someone with severe disabilities. Am I the asshole for accidentally revealing my brother's vasectomy when his girlfriend talked about their plans to have kids? My brother, Mark 40, won the lottery when he was 20. It was $1,000 a week for life. He was young and wanted to travel. He dropped out of school and has spent his entire adulthood basically seeing the world. He comes home to visit every few years and we FaceTime with him when he is near a signal. He doesn't travel first class or stay in expensive resorts, so he has actually built up some nice savings. He came home with a girlfriend, Haley, 28, this year. They met when they got stuck in South America during the pandemic. She has been traveling since she graduated from university and she works out of a laptop. I, F54, live in the same city where I was born. I love it here. I love being close to my parents and my grandchildren. And most of my siblings. Mark hated being the youngest of 8 and always swore he would not have kids. Our parents were older when they had him and they didn't have the energy for him, truth be told. Mark came home when he was 30 and told us all that he had had a vasectomy and that he would not be contributing to the world population. Haley is a pretty young thing and she is also intelligent and sweet. I can understand why anyone would fall in love with her. We were having a family BBQ to celebrate Mark being in town. There were maybe 30 people in my parents' yard and house. I was talking to Haley about her future plans now that the world opened up again. She said that she was ready to settle down and start a family. I asked if they were planning on adopting from one of the countries that they had traveled to or if they would try in North America. She said they had talked about it and would be having at least one child of their own. This may be where I fucked up. I asked where Mark got his vasectomy reversed or if they were having in vitro fertilization. I know they can harvest sperm from a testicle even after a vasectomy. She went very quiet and went over to Mark. They spoke and they left. Mark called me later that night to scream at me for ruining his life. He hadn't told her and he was planning on just continuing to travel and maybe adopt if they decided on it. He said I shared private medical information and that he never wanted to see me again. I apologized over and over. I seriously had no way of knowing that he was planning a future with this girl without telling her a pretty big piece of the puzzle might be missing. I feel bad for him, but I think he should have told her. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Your brother is a self-centered jerk. He was just going to lie and string that poor girl along. Thank you so much for telling her the truth even if it was an accident. God, what an $1 your brother is, shame on him. Please tell everyone he dates that he has had a vasectomy. OP. He's usually not in the country. OP on how old the girlfriend was when her brother met her. OP. I think she was 25 when they met. Comment 2. I mean, did you slip up or did you know you were kicking a wasp's nest? OP. They have been together for almost 3 years and are planning one biological kid. I assumed it must have come up. Comment 3. So they talked about it and he didn't bring it up on his own terms at all? Wouldn't that have been the time for him to tell his partner about the vasectomy? Update. My brother now refuses to visit our parents if I'm around because I accidentally told his girlfriend at the time that he had a vasectomy when she told me that they were trying for kids. So it wasn't that he was planning on reversing his vasectomy or anything, he wanted to do the same as that poor woman's boyfriend. Just lead her on until it was too late for her to have kids. He came by this summer with his girlfriend and I stayed away. I guess he told this one that he and I have a bad relationship and that I'm jealous of his riches, lol, after his lottery win. I'm not going to do anything about it, but I hope she finds out before he screws her future as well. Sort of a funny thing though. His lottery money may run out soon. It turns out that he should have paid more attention. The money he won was $1,000 a week for life and was actually only for 25 years. He does have savings, so he shouldn't be destitute or anything, but he also does not have a pension or anything. I am interested to see what happens in 4 years. Comments. Comment 1. You might have spilled the beans, but it looks like his secret was bound to come out sooner or later anyway. It's cool that you're not trying to get involved, but hoping his girlfriend finds out shows you still care about her. Comment 2. Where are your parents on this? If I knew my sons were this manipulative and deceitful, I'd be disgusted. I'd also be telling every single woman he brings home, which means they'd vanish, I'm sure. My girlfriend is convinced that I'm having an affair with my doubles partner. I am not, and it's driving me mad. I am a pro athlete, I won't say which sport exactly for anonymity, but it's one where you can play singles and doubles. I met my girlfriend 2.5 years ago and we had a wonderful relationship. I also made it very clear from the beginning that I would often have to be away traveling around the country and occasionally internationally to compete in tournaments, and she accepted this and has never had a problem with it until the coaches paired me with this girl who I'll call Lucy. Who I'll admit I have become good friends with, but that's it, she isn't my type. Lucy is very conventionally attractive and most guys, 100% not me, would find her more attractive than my girlfriend. I think some of her gossipy friends have gotten into her head telling her she shouldn't trust me going to hotels with this attractive girl without her there. My girlfriend is always welcome to come along to spectate but usually can't because of work. She then started reading into things that aren't there, like not being happy that me and Lucy hugged each other after winning a tournament together recently. Like what? And apparently looking too close on the team's social media even though those pictures are designed to make the team look tight. She is asking all sorts of unreasonable things, like asking me to stay in a separate hotel with Lucy. The coaches book the hotels and the whole team stays in the same one. It would look so strange if I asked not to be with them. My girlfriend was not happy with this explanation. She is now demanding that I ask for a different doubles partner, which I refuse to do, firstly because doing so to me would be like admitting there's something going on when there isn't, and secondly I am not messing with my chances of success and winning titles because she can't get over her insecurities. During a recent conversation I admitted to my girlfriend that soon in the run-up to the Olympics I will probably be spending more time training with Lucy than ever before, and she absolutely blew up saying she loves me but can't deny what's going on right in front of her eyes and she can't do this anymore. I screamed there is nothing going on and she stormed out and said she is going to her parents for a few days. And that's where we are at the moment. My goodness, I love this girl so much and I just want her to trust me, damn it. I have never given her a reason not to. Any advice on how to convince her to trust me? Please don't ditch Lucy as a doubles partner because I ain't doing that. TLDR, I have an attractive mixed doubles partner I play at pro level with. My girlfriend has listened to gossip and believes I'm having an affair. I am not. Any advice? Relevant comments. Commenter, what Olympic sports have specific mixed doubles events for people who only play mixed doubles? I know tennis has mixed doubles, but the pairings are made from the people who have already qualified as individuals or non-mixed doubles. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. So this isn't a suggestion, just a question. Why do you specifically play mixed doubles instead of singles or non-mixed doubles? OP, I play all three. There's no rule against competing in all of them. Mixed doubles is just the most successful for me at the moment. Commenter, you have a strong emotional connection with another female. Your relationship isn't just like co-workers, you guys are partners in a sport. Can you really blame her for not liking it? She didn't start a relationship with you and expected you to have such a strong bond with another female. And the more time you guys spend together, the stronger that bond is going to become. I understand it's because of your career, but who would want a partner that has a strong connection with another person of opposite sex, making a career together? They would prefer it if their partner didn't have that. OP, you make a good point, but she knew what she was signing up for at the beginning. I made it perfectly clear what dating an athlete in this sport would be like, including that it would mean training and potentially partnering up with women who are very physically fit. She was always okay with this until Lucy. Update. I don't know if anyone really wanted an update, but things got pretty crazy. After my girlfriend stormed off to her parents, we spoke again over the phone and she still didn't believe me and I was tired of it, so we agreed to end things. She came and collected her stuff a couple of days later and I thought that would be the end. Then 3 weeks passed and she suddenly came to my place at night telling me what a fool she had been and claiming she had come to her senses and knew I wasn't cheating. I was pretty happy to hear that, and we had some pretty great make-up sex and it seemed the problem was solved. Then for like a week and a half I started to get very suspicious of this sudden change of heart. How she went from being 100% sure I was having an affair to 100% sure I'm not, like the flick of a switch. Her behavior was also off, like she was trying too hard to make it up to me. She was never asking me to do any chores like she completely fairly did before. I was coming home to a girlfriend who had my favorite meal made on the table and dressed up sexy for me, which was out of character. I then confronted her, demanding to know why the sudden change. She denied it at first but then admitted that she hired a PI in those 3 weeks she was gone to get proof of me and Lucy having an affair to prove she was right. When in fact he did the opposite when he told her after his weeks of watching that we definitely wasn't having an affair. This was a breach of trust and of my private life, so I told her we are over permanently this time. She actually accepted this quite calmly, seeming pretty resigned to it. We then parted amicably. She packed and left again, but I did speak to her yesterday where she seemed in okay spirits enjoying Christmas with her family, and she told me she is getting therapy in the new year to work on her issues and paranoia. And for me, I am all good. I thought I would be really broken up about it, but I actually feel quite happy and free. Just enjoying Christmas and looking forward to trying to get into the Olympics without all the drama. Oh, and to those who thought Lucy might have been into me, she has not made any moves on me since the breakup at all, and there has been no changes in our dynamic. Thanks to all who commented. TLDR. We broke up. She came back claiming to believe me. Turned out she hired a PI. We permanently broke up over this. We are both doing well. Am I the asshole for flipping out on my fiancé for canceling all the vegan food options from our wedding menu behind my back? My fiancé, 31 male, and I, 25 female, are getting married soon. There wasn't much that disagreed on during the wedding planning except for food. Me and my family are vegans, and there are so many reasons why we chose this lifestyle, and one of them being that we have a history of health issues. My fiancé and his family are the complete opposite. They're hardcore meat eaters, which is fine by me obviously. However, when deciding on the wedding food menu, I wanted to add 4-5 vegan options. My fiancé and his mom objected, saying it was a waste of money over food that isn't real food. They also argued that this would be offensive for their guests and suggested my vegan options just be the good old salads and appetizers. His mom wanted cupcakes, lol. I said no because for one, it's me and my family who's paying. And two, I want to make my guests feel welcome and not be treated as second-class citizens by being served salad. My fiancé made a face and said, "Isn't that what vegans eat?" I refused to argue about it and said it was final. The other day, I found out that he had canceled all the vegan options and took them off the menu completely and behind my back. I was seething. I called him at work but he kept hanging up on me. I went straight to his workplace and confronted him there and just flipped out on him. He was stunned to see me. He at first said it was his mom's idea, then told me to go home because I was making a scene at the office. The fight continued at home and he defended himself by saying that I sort of made him resort to doing this after I kept brushing off his thoughts and input and refusing to accommodate his family. But there were plenty of meat options. Why can't I get 4-5 vegan options when I'm paying for it? He yelled that it was his wedding too, not my family's. My family said it was fine and they'll figure it out and told me to let it go, but I refused. AIT for putting my foot down on this. Verdict, not the asshole. Update 1. So his mom messaged me earlier to try to get me to listen to what she had to say after I kept ignoring her phone calls. She spent long walls of text just to address what I did at her son's workplace, calling it all kinds of stuff from immature to unhinged. She then went on to explain how she's noticed that me and my family kept acting dismissive of her son's input and contributions to the wedding. She said that she noticed my behavior towards him and her entire family and wanted to speak up earlier but didn't and tried to keep the peace. She then went on to address the food menu issue and denied her involvement in the cancellation of the vegan option, but that didn't mean she doesn't support her son's decision. Moreover, she thought it was so irresponsible of him to make that move because of my continual refusal to see how this stuff is a waste of money. She also pointed out how I kept saying I paid for it, and said that technically this isn't just my money, it's mine and his because we're getting married. She suggested I wake up and get rid of my money, I paid for it, mentality. She finally mentioned how bad this whole situation is making me look and said that she and her son had already offered a number of compromises that I chose to brush off and decided to make it my weird hill to die on. She said that not only her son is upset but she and the family are as well after hearing about it and suggested I just agree on their compromise and be done with it. This pissed me off beyond belief. I responded by letting her know that I'm still standing my ground on this even if I'll have to call the whole wedding off because of it, because honestly, this is just ridiculous. It is. My mom and dad, they don't even know what to say anymore. Apparently, my fiancé saw my response to her, he's with her, and is now trying to call me, but right now I'm waiting on him to get home and see if he's still insisting on the stance he took. I'll update if there's anything worth adding after we talk. Relevant comments. Comment 1, NTA, are you sure you want to marry this man and his family? They have no respect at all for you and yours. OP, frankly, I have no idea why his mom feels so strongly about getting involved. I only included in wedding planning only because I respect her, but I guess it's like they say, give an inch, and they'll take a mile. Comment 2, info, how many options are there in total? So like 5 non-vegan and 5 vegan, meaning 8, 10 options for meals. Is this a buffet or restaurant reception? Or is this a multi-course menu and so there is essentially one vegan meal with 5 courses? NTA, because he did this behind your back without talking to you. But I'm wondering why he cares what other people eat. Also, he's the AH for claiming he doesn't know what vegans eat. You're vegan. He knows you eat more than salad. OP, aside from the vegan we have 6 options with meat. His mom picked one. I'm paying for the whole thing. Comment 3, if you marry him, this is the rest of your life. He'll do whatever his mom says when it comes to your kids and managing your life. Update 2, so the talk didn't go well. I waited for him to come home so we could have a final conversation about it, but he still insisted on his stance. For more details, his family are a bit on the heavy side. Nothing wrong with that, they're perfectly within their right to decide how to live, but they get easily offended at the mention of the words weight and food. I tried so hard to focus on the issue at hand, but I noticed there was a pattern of this behavior. He said it wasn't true. And that this was just an attempt for me to throw past conflicts at him in order to win the current one. He claimed he tried to reason with me about why and how his guests might see those vegan options as offensive, also said that his family love food and consider it a big deal, and how he didn't want his family to feel like there's certain options that they couldn't touch, and feel that there's difference in how I treat them versus how I treat my family. He then went on to explain how it's just an event and how my family should just accept what's on the menu, and if they felt inconvenienced, so what? It's just a one-time thing. They're not gonna die if they had salad and appetizers. What he said wasn't a good enough reason for me cause his folks are gonna think and say what they want, but at the end of the day it's my wedding. And to be honest, realizing that my partner himself thinks it's okay to steamroll my opinions and decisions simply because he's prioritizing others and their opinions over me was really upsetting and not something that could be looked past. Normally, I'm a person of rational discussions and compromises. I'm all about compromises. I'd compromised on much bigger matters than just food, but like people said ... it quote s not about the food anymore. If it ever was. Like, he'd literally lose nothing if he let me have what I wanted, but apparently, he was willing to lose it all over this, which is fine by me. I gave him back the ring and called everything off. I just couldn't envision myself living like this any longer, having to walk on eggshells for his family and letting him basically override my opinions and have the final say no matter what. Marriage is about compromise, and here he has nothing to lose yet chose to do this to me and my family. Mind you, this is my first serious relationship and I didn't know what to expect, but it's safe to say that he and his mom and family did make it feel like I was taking crazy pills on many occasions, so that's that. Last thing he said was that I chose my family over him and ended everything for the sake of keeping him happy. Decision has been made and it's done. Just wanted to give an update to those who wanted it. Thank you so much for your endless stream of advice and support. Relevant comments. Comment 1, good for you. Marriage is about compromise, and it doesn't sound like your ex is interested in compromising, or even letting you have a say in things. That isn't a partnership. OP. Thank you. And you're right. Honestly. I felt kind of hesitant about posting an update. In fact, I was hesitant about posting my situation as a whole. Normally I'm not the time to share my private business online, but I was desperate. Like I said, there were times where his family made me feel like I was taking crazy pills. Honestly, and I'm gonna say this anyway, I hate them. They always made me feel like an outsider and a stranger. Never really warmed up to me and instead pretended to like me, but it was obvious they resented me. They claim that I'm a covert fat phobic, but in reality, I got mocked, along with my family, for being underweight due to health issues I'd mentioned before. Don't even get me started on future Mill, though I feel as though I gotta let it all out and vent. Comment 2. You go girl. Dude 100% laid out a roadmap where only his opinion matters and yours is irrelevant. This probably wasn't the first time, but it for sure would not be the last. OP. Exactly. Like I said, I'd noticed a pattern of this behavior but kept rationalizing it, which was a huge mistake on my part. It's been utter torture trying to please him and his family. I'm an emotional mess right now, but there's this little voice of reassurance telling me I've gone through the worst and survived it. I'm so thankful this happened. It helped me see things clearer.